This webinar is actually sponsored by Strepsils, who joined with us as a partner. So until everyone connects, there's a short video clip, literally 5 seconds, that we need to play.
Which means, guys, we're getting paid.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I was Strepsils brand ambassador.
And we're going to Strepsils.
Okay.
Nah, දවස්වලට එන උගුරේ අමාරු වලට ඉතින් Strepsils තමයි. උගුරේ අපස්ථා වළක්වා ගන්න Strepsils.
And that was fast. Yeah. So it seems Botti will be joining us as we go on. So since everyone else is here, we can just start, I think. So basically, I'll be handing over the controls to Stephanie now. So Stephanie, you can go ahead and talk.
So hi, everybody, to all of you who've tuned in, who's watching all of these amazing panelists and who's interested to know the future of music in the digital age. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. So we have a full powerhouse right here. Some of the top players in the Sri Lankan music industry. We start off with Botti and Saunders. So we have Santosh here. Botti will be joining us in a little bit. They have performed in over 2,000 concerts in Sri Lanka as well as abroad. They have over 51 number one hit singles, and they have so many of their own concert tours. They started as a musical duo from their home in their early days, and BNS currently are the primary shareholders of the BNS production group, which houses some of the most successful companies in the Sri Lankan entertainment industry, such as Showtown Entertainment, Saragama Music Digital Audio Production, Saragama Films, Saragama Digital Content, and Leap Strategic Concepts. So welcome, Santosh. Can't hear you.
I said thank you for the lovely introduction.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Parami, and all for this wonderful bio. Natasha, the gorgeous Natasha. Wait, you moved from the left of my screen to the right. So Natasha Rathnayake is a renowned award-winning singer, dancer, and model. She's a local superstar with years of experience in the studio as well as on the road. She's an authentic female artist who empowers women in Asia and goes beyond her music. She's also a Goodwill ambassador, and she was one of the only Asians to have been invited to sit on the main jury panel to judge the International Music Festival Pirovsky Reset International Contest for Pop Singers. I think I did not pronounce that well, Natasha, did I?
Pirovsky Razviet.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So everyone, welcome to Natasha.
Thank you.
Then we have Suresh. Suresh De Silva is a professional solopreneur, a creative consultant, a brand strategist, a disruptive marketer, creative writer, published author, a thespian, and leading voice actor. He's also a guest lecturer and keynote speaker at select events, and he recently completed his MBA in Business Administration and Management and Marketing and hopes to finish his sim next. So all of you also know him from the amazing metal band Stigmata. He's the co-founder of Stigmata, the premier and pioneering extreme metal ensemble, celebrating 20 years with an expansive body of work. They've done so many world tours, and they were also featured on the Discovery Channel on BBC, and their albums have also been picked as top 10 albums of the year in the underground music. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and that was rather amazing. Thank you.
Next, we have has performed both locally and internationally. Dushyant won the TOYP, which is the 10 Outstanding Young Persons of Sri Lanka Award for 2013 for his contribution to music, arts, and culture. Winter Jam, he also performed at Winter Jam 2011, which was a musical production held in Anaheim Convention Center. Its feature was one of the biggest. It featured some of the biggest and most renowned stars of the West, with huge names such as two-time Grammy Award winner T-Pain and multi-platinum selling rapper Waka Flocka Flame and singing sensation Baby Bash. legendary rapper Too Short, and multiple other artists. Dushyant made history by being the first Sri Lankan to ever share the center stage with names this big, and performs his original music to a standing ovation of 9,000 plus people. He's also an actor and took part in A Common Man, which was a career-defining movie where Dushyant acted alongside Hollywood acclaimed actor Sir Ben Kingsley and Ben Cross. So welcome, Dushyant. Yeah, he's also been in the industry for so long with all your original music. He's well known for his contribution to music, arts, and culture in Sri Lanka. Welcome, Dushyant.
Thank you, and I go on to all of you.
Next up, we have Randhir. Randhir, should I say your middle name? It's really cute.
If you must.
Yasendra Witana. So Randhir is a recognized household name in Sri Lankan music. Randhir boasts a decade-long career, commencing as a member of Sri Lanka's first ever hip-hop group, Brown Boogie Nation, and later evolving into a mass-market pop music icon with evergreen hits such as Namal Mitak, Ojaya Remix, and so many more. Malmada Hasa. Randhir has to date performed to audiences around Sri Lanka and toured nearly every major continent in the world, engaging with Sri Lankan music fans from all walks of life. Randhir is also known for his activism and contribution to various social causes ranging from the environment, HIV/AIDS awareness, cancer victim support, to peace and reconciliation. He has over 15 years of experience in communication and in the advertising industry in the capacity of a strategist and creative planner. There's so many things. He performed in Sri Lanka's first ever hip hop group Brown Boogie Nation in 1995, and Randhir was also the brand ambassador to Childcare Lanka 20, and he was awarded the title of World Peace Ambassador by the World Peace and Diplomacy Organization.
Thank you so much. That was lovely.
Thank you for joining us, Randhir. So welcome all of you guys, and we're here to discuss the future of music in the digital age. But before we get into that, I would like every single one of you to describe yourself in one word, starting off with Suresh.
Sorry, what? One word?
One word. It's really hard. It's really
lack
hard.
of euphemisms. One word. Transcendental.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's really good. Thank you. Natasha?
Curious.
Very nice. Santosh?
Let's say revolution.
Revolutionary. Nice.
Yeah.
Randhir?
Mindful.
Mindful. Oh, that's a good one. Dushyant?
Seeker.
A seeker. Very nice.
Ooh.
And what about you, Steph?
Oh, I'm the moderator.
I know.
I think I would go with yours. Curious or adventurous, one of the two. Thank you very much for sharing that. So there are many people here who are watching who could already be in the music industry here, and also aspiring musicians. So maybe we can start off with first talking about what each of you think. The format I would like to take is where I ask a question, and I would love to take each and hear everyone's opinion. So the first question that I would like to ask is, what qualities do you think make up a successful artist? And what qualities should you develop to be a successful artist? Anyone who wants to go can go first. Bisha?
Humility.
Humility. Maybe, do you want to elaborate as to why it could be important and why it is?
Basically, an artist is a person who has that sense of attraction, and I think to build that relationship, fakeness will not go far, and humility brings in that the real person, and that it'll build a very strong relationship with your fans, and it takes you a long while in my opinion, I think humility has been always been the case where people, because your first attraction is probably your art, your work, but then later on your fan becomes fond of the artist. And then the artist, if the artist is not humble, is not reachable, is not simple, and is not real, that relationship goes away. So I think humility is the most important thing for me.
Thank you so much. So just want to say welcome to Bhatia.
Hello,
Bhatia,
hi,
thank you
how
for
are
joining
you?
us.
Thank you. I got a bit late to come because I was outside and I just got home.
No, not at all.
Already.
Go have a hot shower. Gonna have a hot shower.
No, I did have a hot shower. I came back at 4 o'clock sharp. Had a
So,
hot shower.
Ash.
Bhatia, to start off,
Yes.
can you tell us and can you describe yourself in one word, please?
Me.
Sorry,
Okay.
what?
No, I was asking, you mean me in one word?
One word.
Okay, I'll say persevering or persuasive or persevering or whatever similar kind of.
Wonderful. I think that's a good one. Someone who perseveres, and I think that's super important. Thank you. So the question that Dushyant was answering was one that I asked everyone. So each question I asked, I would like to hear all of your individual takes on it. And the question was, what qualities do you think make up a successful artist? And Dushyant said humility. Maybe who would like to go next? Shall I go in order of my screen? Suresh?
All right. I would say just at the top of my head that it should be discipline.
Okay.
Because I believe very firmly and steadfastly that there are different facets to being a musician, whether you're a songwriter, song craftsman, an entertainer, a performer, all these things. Sometimes you might be someone that encapsulates all these elements. But it's very important to be a proper musician, that you have sense of technique and theory with what you're doing. Number two, I think integrity is very important, because it's very easy to go seeking materialism and short-lived commodities in our industry. And to find a sense of sustainability and longevity, I think it's important to be confident and steadfast in yourself, to believe in yourself, who you are and what you are, and to have some dignity in not compromising your art for anything. And finally, I would say the proclivity to learn, because we never stop learning, right? As musicians, every day we keep learning. And I think as long as we have an open mind and an open heart and are willing to keep learning, we will always evolve as musicians.
Wow, thank you so much. That was so comprehensive. That was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Natasha?
I think we need to have a vision for ourselves. We need to have a vision as to where we want to go, a sense of purpose. And I think, like Suresh said, you have to have a sense of discipline, you know, and just hard work beats. There is absolutely no, you know, there is no luck in this business. You make your luck by, you know, working really hard. So I think for me, that has really worked. And also stay true to your authenticity, because you can't be anyone but yourself. You don't have to copy anyone. You just have to be yourself. And that's been actually something I've embraced since the inception of time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Natasha. Santosh?
Well, I think most things have been said. I would say, I think it was Winston Churchill who said, talent and effort is merely nothing if you don't have focus and determination. I think that basically sums up. I mean, an artist is a person who has talent, who believes who has talent. And then once you know that, once you feel that, obviously you have to put a lot of effort to get somewhere. But then that you wouldn't get there unless you have a plan, you have a focus, you have a vision for yourself. And every time you fall down, every time you fall flat, you have to have that spirit of, okay, now I'm going to get up, I'm going to do it again, I'm going to do it again. One day, yes, you'll make it.
Wow, thank you. Randir?
So I'm gonna just draw inspiration from everybody on this panel and basically say, I'd say it's clarity and focus. So when I say clarity, it's basically knowing exactly what it is you want out of your music career, right? The results, like what you want to be as an artist brand and the results you want out of it. And basically what kind of strategy you're going to use to achieve that, and the focus to basically execute that strategy as well. So if you look at all the members on the panel here, like each person comes from a very different background, but each of them have done exceptionally well in that particular field they're in. So I mean, everybody here knows who each of the panelists are. So each person has done remarkably well, and I think part of that has been knowing exactly what they want out of their careers, what results, what outcomes they want, and just kind of pursuing those outcomes. So that's pretty much, I mean, if you have that, the longevity that Suresh spoke of, I think it goes hand in hand with that.
Thank you. Thank you. Bhatia?
Okay, can you rephrase your entire question again? Because now with all these answers, right? With all these answers, now your question has slightly got diluted in my head.
Sure. Basically, my question is, what qualities do you think make an artist successful? Or what qualities should an aspiring artist work on to be a successful artist?
See, I think all of these things, what all of these guys are explaining there, but I think there is one main quality an artist should quite recognize. For an artist to be successful, as in there are two folds to this. One is artist to be happy and the artist to be really good at it, and that is one side. So all the focus and the determination and everything is that part of it is there. But see, no artist can be called very successful if and unless they can communicate with their fan or their or the people of that land, to that audience, or to their niche. So I think one of the qualities, like apart from all the stories, one of the most essential things is how you understand your fan, or how you understand the people that you're addressing to, and how you understand that teaching, and how you can translate your thought, right, for those people to understand it and grab it.
Yeah.
Because see, even here, when you in Sri Lanka, you get a lot of artists who are really profound, really good, really know what they are saying.
Yeah.
But beyond a certain number of people, beyond a certain level of people, that what he is trying to communicate does not get communicated.
Yeah.
Maybe because of social differences, maybe because of economic problems, maybe because of the way that the artist expresses it. So I think one of the crucial points for anybody to be successful is how well you are communicating any message. Maybe it's a song, maybe it's a drama, maybe it's a concept, whatever. How well you communicate it to your end fan, or the consumer, or your person who's enjoying your art, or the person that you're trying to communicate to. So that skill is something that even if a mediocre artist understands this, they can be the superstar.
Yeah.
A bunch of supremely talented artists in terms of what they are doing, the art. So that is a very, very important thing. So that's I'd say, apart from everything else that was told, everything else is the main thing. But then this has to come to close the deal or to seal the deal.
Great. Thank you so much. So amazing things: communication, humility, discipline, vision, perseverance, integrity, theory, hunger to keep learning, and fine-tuning your art, and of course authenticity. So many great points. Before we move on to the next question, I want to tell all of you who are watching, if you have any questions at any point, kindly go to the chat and type in your questions there, so I will be able to see it and ask our panelists, and let me know who you want to direct that question towards. So all of our panelists, all of you guys, occupy different spaces in the entertainment industry, and you have your own niches, and you've all so BNS over 20 years, like Santosh said, you all were revolutionary. You changed, you were the curveball that changed the entire direction. Over 20 years of doing what you do. Dushyant, a total iconic solo performer. You outsold entire Bishop's College just performing by yourself.
Bishops? No.
Sorry, St. Joseph.
St. Joseph's.
St. Joseph, sorry. Natasha, you are such a powerhouse singer. You're so empowering. You empower women all the time. You bring your dancing, you bring everything into it. Suresh, again, iconic metal band, Stigmata, so vocal. Randir, you're a hip hop artist, who transitioned into singing. So all of you started off though at the age of CDs, cassettes, and then moved into CDs. And then pre-COVID days, it was like Apple, Spotify. It wasn't even Zoom. Nowhere close to coming to Zoom yet. So that was a COVID kind of expedited avenue that you had to take. But how has this transition been in all of your respective areas? How has the transition from back in the day, from cassettes to, let's say, pre-COVID days, how has it been? And then we'll, maybe after you answer that, we'll talk about the future. Who wants to go first? Basically just talking about that transition and how it was. Santosh, I can't hear you.
You have to ask someone, otherwise no one's going to answer.
Okay, fine. Let's do that. I'm not going to give you all the liberty. I'm going to just tell you all who has started. Santosh, go first.
Well, if you look at the evolution, I would say, with regard to us, when we started, probably, I think we were the first couple of artists to integrate television into the music media, right? So now with regard to radio, yes, it was there. When we came, radio was there in a strong way. But even though television was there, probably we were the first to integrate the TV media in a strong way with the music industry. As in, we were one of the first artists to develop our own music videos, right? Because those days, it was a television company who used to create music video for artists. So during our second album, the song called Air, that is where an artist invested their whatever resources they had. They took a risk and created their own music video. Now, when you are now as a musician, when you create your audio, yes, there is some kind of mode of revenue in terms of cassettes, in terms of CDs, whatever. During that time, where there was some kind of revenue mode, whatever to cover your costs. But at that time, with regard to television, there was no revenue. So there was no artist who was investing on video material. But we felt that the industry was evolving on those lines. And during the second album, we created our own music video. So that was probably the first music video that was invested by an artist and created. The song was called Air. Right? The music video is called Air. So then starting from there, it just evolved, and then the whole digital music industry came. And then YouTube and all those things came, right? So we were actually an older generation trying to understand the YouTubes. Actually, we took some time, whereas there were youngsters who were better than us right at the start. So we actually came into the YouTube game a little bit late, and we actually evolved. So I think, so our story of evolution, very, very short and sweet, is something like that. But just to recap something about the history of evolution within the music industry, this has been there right from day one, right? So basically it has happened depending on your uh, social environment, whatever the technology that is formed by people, then whatever whatever technology revolution or whatever social revolution that happened actually caused the music industry to evolve, right? For example, if I may take you right long years ago, when there was no radio, there was no records or anything like that. The only mode of distribution was doing an event, right? So now this was the time of Shakespeare. This was the time of Mozart. So they wrote music, they composed music, but the only form of distributing it to people, it was just going on stage and performing. So at that time, even the other stakeholders, as in the piano manufacturers, the musicians, everyone had to revolve around an industry which is very centric around events. So it was the whole business model was made out of was modeled on the event business, right? Then later on, Mozart starts writing music, and he actually cuts deals with the piano companies, right? So at that time, piano companies used to manufacture only for events, right? So their pianos would be used just to showcase as events and performances. Mozart is the first person to write his music, and he gets people to play their music at home. So what happens is he starts selling his scripts to people. So in order to, let's say, with regard to copyright infringement and all those things, the history says that he has 3 seals, one for France, one for Italy. So he has so that he makes sure that the copyright also that there's some kind of thing coming in.
We will be talking about copyright later.
Right? No. What I'm saying is, so this is the time where the music industry shifts from an event model. So it's like a paradigm shift where it shifts to the retail model.
Yeah.
Right? So they start selling. So then the record comes, and then what happens is, while the event model is working, the retail model comes. Then the records, then all the CDs, the cassettes, all those things evolve, right, in the 18th, 19th century. So until very, very recently, it was on a very retail model. It's because music industry depends a lot on the distribution. So when I say retail model, if you really understand the music business, the retail model is actually selling plastics and vinyl. Right? So that because at the end of the day, whether it's a CD, whether it's a record, whether it's a cassette, what are you selling? You're selling plastics, you're selling vinyl. Right? So that was the business right throughout until the retail industry. When the digital industry came, again evolution, right? So that was the technological that brought in a different line. How are we going to survive in the digital industry? Say during the digital age, are we going to survive having a retail model, or do we need to go into event model or some other thing? So that is actually what is still being understood by the entire world. How could we understand copyrights? How does copyrights evolve in the digital world? So right now, I would say, my opinion, probably the model would be giving your music free to people, right? And then maybe advertising, share, and then let's say whatever physical content you have, you sharing it as memorabilia, all those things. So the whole digital model is something very different. So at the start, I just shared how we evolved.
Yes.
And the secondary thing I was said about how the music industry evolved in the world.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was really eye-opening, very interesting. And I want to tap in and ask you a little bit more about copyrights and where you think it'll be headed, where we will be headed in the future. Before that, if we can get answers from maybe Randir, you can go next. If there's anything you would like to add to that and like to share your opinion.
Well, sorry, what was the question again? Could you rephrase that? We have a bit of a dilution situation happening again.
Yeah. So the question was, so you started off your career in hip hop back in the day of it was really old school cassettes to and then you moved on to CDs, then radio, TV, and
so how has the
just
transition been?
pre-COVID.
Was the
Yeah,
question,
the transition basically.
Okay, so everybody in this panel will cover a different angle, will provide a different angle to that question. I mean, much like Santosh said, I think for artists in our generation who kind of started with the whole cassette and CD mediums, switching over to digital, it's been a bit of a learning curve. But having said that, we've been, if we're going to take the present time, our generation has been a little bit lucky, because if you take the present, like I said, speaking right as of now, the Sri Lankan music industry, it recognizes all these faces in this panel here. Okay, so these brands have been established. What I'll answer it from this angle here. What the transition has meant for a newcomer is that, you see, back in the day when we were getting into the music industry, right, the gatekeepers to basically standing between you and your fame were pretty much the media owners. So the program directors, the channel heads of radio stations, of TV stations, and so on. And those guys pretty much made the decisions, and those were the stakeholders you had to convince. All right. So once your song got on radio or got on TV, you got visibility. All right. Right now, achieving visibility is super challenging for somebody who's coming in fresh into the industry, because what's happened is YouTube and all these digital platforms, it's kind of democratized sort of music. There are less gatekeepers now. You can basically publish music from your bedroom. Okay. Yeah. And you don't need a record company anymore. You don't need publishers. You don't need all of that. You can pretty much reach the masses at the click of a button. You can basically upload your content, right? And millions can see it. So what's kind of happened now is if you're a newcomer, right, the floodgates have been opened, and there's this huge, like hundreds upon thousands of other artists who you're competing with. Okay. And what you're essentially battling for, and now that's kind of why I said when I answered that very first question of yours, okay, you need clarity about your career. What is it you want? Do you want 1 million views? Are you measuring your success based on social media metrics, or views and likes and comments? Or are you looking at making this a career? Are you looking at making revenue out of this? Okay. Because social media metrics, views and stuff like that, the approach to achieve that, plus the approach to also monetize at the same time. And like what Santosh also very nicely covered earlier is that, things with all the changes in technology and stuff, we are still in this country very dependent on live performance as a revenue model. So essentially, any new artist, what they probably, if they want to make a career, what they have to kind of cut through the clutter and do is create a proposition where people will hire them to play, so they can start earning. Okay. Now that right now is super challenging. So. Yeah.
We will talk about the context of right now in a short.
So just to sum up, what I said was the transition is there, and a lot of the people from the previous generation who were lucky enough to have hit songs and still be remembered to this day, they've been lucky, right? That has been a learning curve, but still, their careers are doing okay. But if you're coming into the industry now, you need to really focus on, really focus on being unique and really cutting through all this clutter. So it's just got that much. It's that much easier to access the industry, but it's that much more difficult to succeed.
Yeah, completely understand. Thank you for that, Randhir. Dushan?
So interesting question to be asked by some of the artists who are representing most of the, let's say, the Colombo music of Sri Lanka, because this question that you're asking is actually, we are trying to relate it to the whole of Sri Lanka. But whereas I feel, whether it was the cassettes era, or whether it was the CDs era, and then the YouTube era, I'm not quite sure if any of these actually had a very huge penetration to the Sri Lankan music as much as the radio. I mean, starting from Botti and Saunders to Randhir, Natasha, all of us, the amount of cassettes that we sold and the amount of CDs that we sold and the YouTube views we have now, is really not the biggest impact that we have in our careers in terms of having our relationship with our fans. I think even though these are 3 eras that we have passed, we're still we are probably a bunch of musicians who are still representing a fan base who engaged, who reached to us through cassettes and CDs. But still, for all, we have been more reached by the fans through radio and live performances. And my point here being, honestly, something to what Santosh said, a very important factor of copyrights and things like that. But for some reason, Sri Lanka, we still haven't actually made a huge effect of being in the cassettes industry or in the CDs industry or in the YouTube industry. If this question is, if the answers are important to a person who is listening as who want to be an artist, I still feel these 3 forms are still, very small places in our industry in Sri Lanka, because I think still radio is a big factor, but it's changing very fast. Obviously, the radio is still little bigger than, not as big as the cassettes era, and its radio is not as big as the CDs era and not as big as the YouTube era, but still, for all, these eras have been a very, very small factor to be a successful artist in Sri Lanka. So point being here, even though we have been having such struggle for copyrights and trying to sell CDs, trying to sell cassettes and getting YouTube views, that does not necessarily determine you are a very popular or a successful artist in Sri Lanka. I think it's still a very much a factor that if you want to be a Sri Lankan artist, not just the Colombo segment, I think it's still very important to understand that these have very small, honestly, I think it has affected us as well. But in terms of being a competitive artist, I don't think whether we have sold so many CDs or cassettes actually mattered.
So even though so much has changed and so much has transitioned, that base of radio still actually has quite a big impact, in your opinion. Thank you so much for sharing that. Suresh?
Wow, there's no easy or short way around this question.
I know,
Stephanie,
I'm so sorry.
your questions are a little bit badass. So, okay, let me first say that music, as everyone on this panel would know, has always evolved since day one. I mean, back in the day when there was vinyl, remember, that was a big thing. And like Santosh said, before that, it was events and it was performances. But remember, with the advent of vinyl, how it impacted the concert goers, and they had to fit and figure out a model that worked back then. And then when the advent of cassettes came, and cassettes being played in vehicles, and then the CDs came, everyone who was a part of those respective industries at that time were complaining that this Navarala and this new trend is kind of rendering them obsolete. That's how the artists who grew up with a particular advent of technology felt at that time. So on one hand, I think fast forward to today, and we were around with the whole cassettes and the CDs and that thing as well. And I'm sure most of you, I mean, before we had the whole digital systems to record, we were recording albums on analog, right? On DAT tapes, over and over again, recording live until you got it right. And I think today, right now, we are just looking at the next logical step of the musical evolution, Stephanie, in terms of the technological devices, the technological platforms. So 2 factors: the way people consume music today, the behavioral patterns of customers in the market, be it mainstream audiences, as most of y'all cater to, or underground audiences, and a hardcore niche, loyal niche like what we cater to, it has changed. The consumerism aspect has completely changed. The behavioral aspect has changed. The platforms that people listen to music has changed. I'll just give you a small example. I love listening to full albums of bands. For me, I love that journey. Like, I don't like, say, watching Phantom of the Opera, Jesus Christ Superstar, even listening to the audio and skipping tracks. I like that journey throughout, that arc, that story arc is what drew me to music, what drew me to movies. It's like watching a Tarantino movie or a Francis Ford Coppola or a Oliver Stone and watching parts of the movie and skipping to the end, right? But I have to tell you, as much as I love that, I don't have time to listen to full albums anymore. Even I am shuffling songs. I listen to music on YouTube when I'm either working out or when I'm studying or whatever I'm doing, when I like to have music in the background. But for me, I'm a guy who likes to, and I think our fans are like that. And that's an important point. I'm drawing a correlation there, right? And a confluence and a tie. We like to really pay attention to our music. It's not a background artistry. So for me, I love the depth. I love the intricacy. I love to go into the lyrics. I love to know what the concept is behind the video, whether it has a link to the song, what the themes are, what inspired the artist to compose that. That really means a lot to me, right? So on one hand, there's no point people complaining about the technologies having changed, because it has. So with regards to COVID right now and lockdown and how we have figured out how to align our business strategies, to cater to the audience and the consumer need right now, it's to make use of these technological aspects in our environment that in a way all of us have already espoused and embraced, right? So on one hand, it's that. I'm not going to rattle on and on. Second thing I want to just add to that. I think it's very important to know that when we're talking about creating a competitive advantage in any industry, not everyone wants to be a Coca-Cola. Not everyone wants to be a McDonald's. And for some people, they would rather be a fine wine or a whiskey than be a Coca-Cola. Now, there ain't nothing wrong in wanting to be a McDonald's or a Coca-Cola, right? As much as, and there's nothing wrong in wanting to be a nice plate of fish and chips done right, there's nothing wrong with that. There's no one is right, no one is wrong. But I think Randir is the one who said this earlier. It's important to have a pulse and know, and Santosh mentioned this too, who your consumers are, who your customers are, and what resonates with them. And we have to cater to that. So with regards to having a lot of, not having CD sales and tape sales and us not having the same level of, say, YouTube views as Drake or Blake or Sek or whoever these people are, I would say that engagement is not necessarily a reflection of value. They're two entirely different things. You can have 1 million people following you, but even 1,000 of them might not buy your material. Why? They're not an audience with a disposable income. The audience who views your stuff and gives you your clickbait and your clicks are not necessarily a loyal following that will stick with you through different generations. Now, we may not have tons of audiences over here in Sri Lanka, but when we played, we're the first Sri Lankan artist to play an army stadium. It was in Dhaka, Bangladesh. At least in Bangladesh, we had 40,000 metalheads. When we played India, we had 25,000 metalheads. These are metal fans, guys. These are not like mainstream audiences. But look at those numbers. We know we don't get those numbers over here, but that doesn't rattle our cages. We know that within that niche, we have found sustainability and longevity. So what I'm trying to say is the numbers are important, but there's a lot of smoke and mirrors with that.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't get disheartened over not having the same figures as overseas artists, some who use bots, some who have other techniques and metric ways to get more hits and views. The important thing is to find an aspect of value that you give your clientele. And if you do that sincerely, you do that properly, you figure out your marketing and your communications, like what Bhatia said, I think that's the way to go. That's the way to deal with it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Suresh. Natasha?
I think, evolution and adaptation is one of the strongest traits we've had to survive as a species. And I think, if you look at history, you'll see that. And right now, I'm not going to touch on all that everyone else said,
Yes.
but I think the present moment is that we have to reinvent ourselves, correlate that with reinvention. So I think when I say reinvention, I mean we need to adapt to a more virtual, digital methods of doing things as creative, right? And if you really look at our history, we have had to rely on media, TV, radio, press, and just live performances to, like everyone said, to connect with our audiences. But not anymore. In fact, a few days ago, I was speaking to some professionals from the industry who are event producers. And one particular individual said that how he hosted an entire event, a conference, virtually, where they had over, I think, 600 participants from all around the world. And they even had singers and musicians who participated, right? And so this goes to show that the scale of virtual events are possible, and that's where the current is going, and I think it's brilliant. But if you really look at what has happened post-COVID, I mean, given the nature of COVID-19, how this virus spreads, live events, concerts, festivals, everything has come to a halt, and large gatherings are not something that we can actually expect now, right? So with all the cancellations and the postponements, artists have had to rethink their strategy, rethink of creative ways of interacting with their audiences. And I was watching some of the some of the artists who overseas, actually, many have resulted in even hosting their own live shows from the comfort of their living room, and platforms on social media or even their studios. We have to embrace if we are to move forward. Most of you on this panel will agree with me that when I say that, there's a disadvantage in that, because we don't get to communicate with our audience. That live interaction is not there, and that is something that is hard to grasp, because all of us have been doing concerts and really penetrating all these big audiences, right? And how do you actually understand that now, just to basically to change that situation. But if you really look at the recording artists, that's not going to affect them, because they are not people who interact with the live audiences. They are pretty much confined to a close proximity studio environment, and they record, and it's just only two people, or sometimes it's just one person, and that also most of them have home recording studios. So this is pretty much actually the new normalcy which we have to embrace. And I really don't know what's happening, but I think streaming, we will have to get on, like everyone said, we will have to get on a virtual platform to sell our music, to even connect with the audiences, which is, I don't know, I mean, we'll have to wait and see where the current takes us.
Thank you, Natasha. That's really wonderful. Reinventing yourself, adaptability, also bringing up the issue of how, like, many artists feed off their live audiences. How do you move on from that? Before we move on to our next question, Bhatia, is there anything you would like to add? this and your take on
I
the
don't think
transition and
anything because there are too many answers on this and everything now has
yes.
been said. So I don't
Yes, kind of amalgamated into one. We've already
all
moved on to how to, yeah.
but I can add something to it when you ask some other question. I'll add
Great.
something.
So for those watching right now, maybe we can just talk about the different ways, and Natasha, you spoke about recording artists, live shows. How are the different and what are the different platforms that artists in Sri Lanka can monetize? So maybe you can, maybe anyone who wants to take the question.
I think, say, I think Santosh might be the best one to answer that.
Okay, Santosh?
No,
Maybe
as
the
in,
different platforms and how an artist would use them to monetize, because nobody wants to be the starving artist and everybody wants to, you know, live off their art.
yeah. Actually, there are many forms, there are many mediums that you could monetize and you could engage, right? I mean, very very straightforwardly, if I say, currently there is YouTube, right? Then there is Spotify, then there is Pandora to a certain extent, then all the very varied services offered by the telcos, right? And then the old fashioned, I mean, the old school revenue models of performing. You know, there are so many things that people know, right? Only thing is, our country has certain limitations in certain modes, right? For example, now if you take YouTube, we don't get the full royalty that we should get. For example, the revenue that comes from Sri Lankan clicks, since we don't have a collection society in Sri Lanka, because of copyright matters and all, I'm not going into detail of that. That is a sort of separate question, right? So we have limitations on that, but still we do get some amount of revenue. Then iTunes, Spotify, those things work, right? Then with regard to performing, yes, now with this current situation, there are limitations, right? But what I could, what I could tell the people who are watching is, it is important. The only way you can beat this thing, you can actually create some revenue is if you understand the strengths and the limitations that we have in our country, right? For example, let's say currently performance is a problem, right? But then you have to just create something around it, right? Now, can we take the performance to the world of internet, right? Can we perform virtually, right? So then change your model, right? So there are revenue streams that still exist. For example, you say in the future there'll be different revenue modes from value-added services, for example, from the telcos, right? All these different modes will come in, right? Now, if, for example, PRBT, let's say the ringtones, that was one of the biggest revenue modes, right, say until recently. But only problem is, since last 3-4 years, there's been a strong decline, right? And then if you take the radio royalty, right, that is the biggest problem right now in Sri Lanka. If you take the radio royalty, we don't get the radio royalty, starting from every form of musician, right? Radios don't pay royalty. So the day that starts coming in, that will be a big change for the country. Because if you take the entire world, most of the new musicians, they're bread and butter, musicians who compose, who write songs, right? Their main revenue mode is the royalty from radios. So that doesn't function in Sri Lanka. So there are a whole load of limitations. But then the person who's going to enter this music industry need to know the limitations and the strengths or whatever, right? How but most important, what I'm trying to say is, once you understand the limitations, once you understand the modes of revenue of whatever channels we have, you have to innovate. You have to be creative within those revenue modes in order for you to exist. If you don't innovate, if you don't be creative with regard to your revenue modes, right, if you don't, with regard to whatever you develop, your creatives, your songs, your performances, all channels, if you don't be creative, then it's very difficult to survive doing music alone, right? So the only good thing I see is the way the country is going. Probably in about, say, 3, 4, 5 years down the line maximum, Sri Lanka will really expand, will start exploiting most of the revenue modes, right? Just like another country. So it is very clear that the country is heading on the correct direction, right? With regard to, expanding the revenue modes of the music industry.
Yeah.
But the advice that I can give people who are coming into the industry and the people who are watching, same way you are creative about your songs, your production, try to understand the music industry, how the quantitative side of the industry, the modes, and be creative around those also, right? As to how you create your revenue, how you integrate your creative production within those channels and modes, right? So this is music. Music is just not about making a song, right?
Yeah.
It's about understanding your entire industry. So short and sweet, we are on a very good wicket. The way things are unveiling, we're on a good wicket. So don't be scared about the music industry. Come in. The person who could change is you.
Thank you, Santosh. Can you all add? Yes, Natasha?
So I read this article that said there was this talk about the SOSC, actually the Secretarial of Oversight Committee on Education and Human Resource Development had recommended that the song aired from January 1st, 2020 to 2022 should be paid royalty of, I think, rupees 30 or something like that, while songs were telecast on TV, should be paid 100 rupees. What's happening about that? Wasn't that supposed to?
Yeah, so Natasha, just to explain to you, the problem that we have now in our industry is that, we see now for any say, for example, for any law to be properly implemented, what happens? You have to have things in 3 forms. So you have to have the legislator, then you have to have the end consumer, the citizen who is subject to the law, and then in the middle you have to have the guy who comes and enforces the law, right? Now what, so just to give you an example, now say for example, when you go on the road, you are subjected to a law, you can't go more than 40 kilometers or 60 kilometers. Now the law has been made by RDA. The RDA will come and say you can't go more than 100 in this, you will get into an accident. So they make the law. Then the law is sent to the parliament or wherever, and they basically establish and they enact the law. But then you get an authority called the Sri Lanka Traffic Police. The Sri Lanka Police has a traffic division to enforce the law. Similarly, with regards to taxation, so there is a party who makes the law for taxation, then we are the people who are subject to that law, and then there is an institution called the
Revenue Department
Service to come and enforce it. Like if you don't pay tax, we are being sued. So now when you take the performing rights societies in Sri Lanka, at the moment Sri Lanka has 2 societies. One is Oscar, one is APCO, right? Now the problem is we have still not got the proper revenue generating mechanisms and the legislative authorities to these 2 PRS organizations to go and enforce and bang their heads with the FM stations, with the TV stations and whatever. So though the law is being enforced and the law is there, basically the enforcement of the law is still not happening.
So has the bill been passed?
Yeah. So, but see, just because a law is
So,
being
Srila,
No,
yes.
Natasha, say the law has been passed, right? It's been passed for a couple of years. Law is there, whereas it stipulates, okay, you have to pay a certain amount of a royalty, right, through your radio play, right? But the person who execute, like for example, now, with regard to the copyright law, right? If you want to register something, yes, there is a associate. I mean, there is an establishment in Sri Lanka. Uh, Sorry, guys. Right, so there is an establishment in Sri Lanka where we can register it. So with regard to registration process, yes, there is that. But then with regard to the financial collection or making sure whatever security that say collecting royalties on behalf of the secured copyright, that has to be driven by a particular authority. So that is normally done by a collection society in the country. They have the legislative powers to collect royalties on behalf of you or the publishing company. So right now in Sri Lanka, yes, through the parliament, yes, they have passed the laws, right? Then there are places where they safeguard the copyrights, all those things, you can register. That is also there. But then with regard to the financial exploitation or securing your financial things, there is no there are two collection societies, but still they are not very functional yet because of certain operational problems, certain government things that has to come and support them, right? So the day that starts functioning and all the entire industry starts supporting that, this becomes functional, yes, we will. But right now, you could say during the past 6 months, there is a strong process of things getting operational. And there are certain corrections of the law to be made, certain things, all these things are there's a bit of certain things to be cleared. But still you could, because now for the past 15-20 years it was not functional, this process was not taking place, right? So you could say in the recent past this process is being taken place. I mean, it is taking place. So in the near future we'll see certain changes, certain ups and downs, but somewhere down the line it will take place. So that's why I said it seems very positive. So all of us need to work together,
Yes.
cooperate, and so this is where it's heading.
Thank you.
Finally we get some royalty.
Just before we get to that, before we talk about royalties, to go back to the different monetization, but yes, you can comment on that. I just saw Dushant, your hand was up, you had a comment as well.
Yes, just with the information, just with the information that's been said here. So Santosh initially said there is no royalty being paid, and then Natasha indicated that there was some sort of 30 rupees or 20 rupees being paid at some point, and Botti said
that the law was passed. Yes,
the law is existing, and there was another law which is passed, but yes, there's still a body that is supposed to operate it, but is dysfunctional to a certain extent, explained by Santosh.
Yes.
Okay, what I really want to know is if there is a 30 rupee or any sort of rupee being paid, and while Santosh says that there is no royalty being paid, what is this 30 rupees? Is it a royalty or is it a goodwill payment?
No. Okay, I will just explain it to you.
This is also for those of you all watching. This is very important because as we move,
just another thing.
Royalties are very important, and as you can see, this is a very important discussion that artists are having. So please, Bhati, you had something. I just wanted to
just to extend with that. So I just want to know whether it was royalty. If it is royalty, why is royalty paid or for the musicians, not the composer and the lyricist, and why is the royalty paid to the singer when the original royalty is owned by the lyricist and the composer and not the musician? Because this new law will confuse the future.
So, Randir, I know you also had something.
No, it's fine. I'll let Bhati,
and then you can have your comment.
The history behind this, we have to be great. Okay, I will tell you a little bit of history. So we have to be greatly appreciative of this collection society called OSCA. So OSCA was initially created as the Outstanding Song Creators Association of the country. So initially, the people who came and became a part of this particular this particular operation were more the people who sang. It was not the composers or the people who wrote who actually went forward and fought for this. It was mainly the singers. So as a result of that, somewhere down the line, they included the singers as well. So right now, this is something very specifically done for Sri Lanka. So let's park it at that film. Right now, that 30 rupees that you asked for, like, you know, asked as in whether it is a royalty.
So radio play, Bhatia.
I will
Yeah, it is for radio play.
Yeah. It is for radio because see, the two of us are very, very hands-on with this whole thing because there are so many other things also happening at the moment. We are trying to bring this whole thing together. So I'm just explaining to you in a very, very simplified way so that we don't need to go in for a long explanation. So what happened was, this was not done in a very, you know, say a very scientifically calculated way, considering what sort of revenues does the FM stations bring in and what sort of cost they have not done any analysis. But of, like, you know, to a certain extent, it was just a thing on top so that the law was approved with. Initially, it was supposed to be 20 rupees. Then it became 30.
Initially, actually, it was 10 rupees.
It was 10. No, it was 3 rupees.
And, so even right now within the constitution, it is still 10 rupees. So,
okay, so just to come back to what I'm saying, so right now we should be thankful that in a country where this law was not there, now we've got the law implemented.
Yeah.
Then you should bring updates to the law is a different story. Law is already there.
Yeah, because right? I mean, just like as Bhati has said, I mean, very correct in the sense. I mean, now if you take the current law, right? Yeah, just finish, right?
Okay.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is, Stephanie, the first question you asked about evolution, right? Mm-hmm. So for us to get things right, we won't get it right at the start, especially for a country who's been not having anything for 50, 60 years. Right. So therefore, but if we can see a process taking place right now, right, without trying to get that perfect thing right at the start, right? Let's everyone get, you know, I think everyone should give their input and, you know, let it evolve and we'll eventually get it right. But for the betterment of the music industry, we can see some sort of process happening, right? So later on, we can figure it out and, you know, the country will get it right. But the most important thing is for the music industry, the first time after years and years, there is some ideology of royalty. Yes, musicians, composers, singers, they need to get remunerated. They need to be a part of the industry. They have to get so that form of thinking has come into equation. So I think that is really great for Sri Lanka.
Santosh, I think it's always very good to thank the situation. Then how
Krishan,
you know,
sorry,
something is.
if I can interrupt you because Randev had.
Sorry.
So if I can...
Actually, I can hold my comments until the end of this.
Okay. So I do agree with Santosh and Bhati being thankful for something, you know, coming up. You know, someone is being paid something. But yes, I have a take on this because I actually went to.
It is not about being thankful. It is that we can see a process happening right now. So it is good that some process is happening. Yes, but everyone should put their input to get this right somewhere down the line.
Yes. So my point.
Quickly,
your input, my input, you know, everyone's input is important to get it right.
We have a few more questions I would like to get through. I know there
I think it's important I say this.
Yes, continue.
Because
and then Suresh,
like how Santosh is saying, it's very important for us to get this right. But my point being, I actually went to Oscar and I met Kishu Gomez, one of the directors, and I had discussion with him as well. The thing is, in 2020, while we are still trying to get it right, we have to understand 50 years ago, this had been found correctly and the law was passed. It's that it was not practiced. But now, after so many years, we have passed a new legislation that is confusing the owners of the real song. Whereas the original law says is the lyricist and the composer, but by bringing in new legislation, by paying royalty to the singer, the lyricist and the musician, now it's become a confusion. I think that's what we need to understand. Like, it's true that we are thankful that because of this university that somebody's getting paid, it's been practiced. But I feel because you're getting a royalty paid, if you're getting a payment as royalty, that gives you the impression that the singer owns the song, because that implies a new idea for the industry. Whereas the
You're very right. You're fine. You're very right. But let's say now what we're trying to say is there have been so many different changes in this law, and still so
The
what
perfect
we're trying
balance
to say.
has not yet been met.
Yeah. So right now
Exactly.
we can see a process.
Exactly.
Right. So if something has to be changed, to change that, everyone's input is needed. Everyone in the country. Right. But the only thing is that we can see something is happening.
Yes.
Compared to the 1980s and the early 90s.
Thank you.
So something is happening. So we had to
Thank you,
take things
Santosh.
forward, and all of us need to give our input and get it right.
Yeah.
And it's again, as you said, it's evolution.
It's happening right now as we speak, guys. Suresh, you had.
Yeah, I have nothing to add to this, but I have a question sincerely that I would like to ask you guys, and I think you guys are more experienced. Now, they don't pay local artists any royalties here. I agree that from the infrastructure to the legislation to the operational frameworks, be it whether it's the government or all those things, there are issues. My question is this: and this is a bit of a controversial question. So the radio stations, are you telling me that they properly license and pay the overseas artists every time they play a song here, but they don't pay
No,
local?
this is
Actually,
only
what
for the
happens is
local artists.
with regard to the foreign songs, right? So countries like India, Sri Lanka, where copyrights were not so functional, what companies like Universal Music, Sony, what they did was they actually sent say a publishing CD, right? Say a broadcasting CD, whereas that was a bit more expensive than the normal CD. But if you're using a CD which has broadcasting rights, right? For example, if a normal CD was, let's say, X, this would have been like 20X or 30X, whatever, right? So it was more expensive. But what happened was most Sri Lankan radio stations, they used to buy the broadcasting CD, right? So eventually the foreign record labels got some kind of royalty. So this is, even like if you take, even with regard to books, the same thing happened, right? Like let's say the Penguin publishers, to all those people in India, when they started, when they stopped publishing, and infringement of copyrights, all those things, when they brought it in, the India said, look here, Ram, we can't afford these books. So then they gave a separate publication. That's why you have this Indian publication, say a cheaper version in India.
Yeah.
The same way, did the same thing for the South Asian region. They gave a CD without charging a royalty. But I don't know currently, how many stations actually, play the broadcasting CD to start with. But there was a time when this was happening, during the late 90s and the early millennium time.
Wow, thank you so much, Santosh.
Okay,
I
thank
actually
you.
didn't know that, so thank you. Randir, your comment, which you've been holding on to for so long, I'm so sorry.
Nah, man,
This
look,
is
honestly,
a very interactive discussion.
I don't have a lot to add here. I mean, pretty much everything has more or less been covered. What I will say though is like what a couple of panelists said, we need to be appreciative that we have a performing rights organization that's being set up to tackle this issue. Yes, there have been mistakes made in the past. Radio stations earn significant revenues, all right, without paying, without any payment for the material, right? So justice has to be done to the artists, obviously. To people coming to the industry right now, what I would say was, if you rewind 30-40 years ago, okay, artists didn't have the luxury of digital recording. They didn't have the luxury of computers. They didn't have the luxury of sample CDs and making music at the flick of a switch. Having said that, they did the best with the tools they had, okay, and they are still remembered to this day. This is where we are at this particular juncture in history. royalties are not properly paid out. But having said that, you do have a long, a huge buffet of revenue streams as well, like Santosh pointed out earlier. So, the radio royalties, it's a significant income, but it's also not the be all and end all of your music career. Some of us can probably say, maybe by the time this law actually passes and there is some proper infrastructure and system in place to actually collect these and pay them out, we might be old and in wheelchairs by then, right? But I know one thing, nobody on this panel is going to sit around waiting for that income. We're going to go out there.
But the right law already exists, Macha.
Fair enough.
Just passed a new one.
Fair enough. I mean, what we will do is we will continue, we will innovate, like Santosh said, use our creativity and write our own playbook for our music careers, basically.
And at this point in time, I would like to ask, now we had almost 2 months of curfew, live events was a really important way, especially in the Sri Lankan market, that artists and entertainers made their bread and butter. And now all of that is cancelled. So there are many artists who are struggling right now. And also to discuss issues like this, is there a union with a special fund to support artists right now? The government, have they initiated something? Because like in Canada, there's a special fund for all artists where they get a relief fund in order to sustain themselves. So what is your opinion on what, so please, if you can explain what already exists, what should ideally exist when it comes to governments as well as the public's role in supporting their local artists?
Well, is it okay if I answer this? Because I was
yes, sure.
Quite hands-on with this particular thing that you asked as well, with so many associations. So see, Sri Lanka, when you take, you've got a lot of associations.
Mm-hmm.
Got a whole load of associations, as in you've got the, now from here, if you take, you've got the WMA, but compared to the WMA, you get other associations as well. Like you get the Singers Associations of Sri Lanka, then you get the Oriental Bands Association of Sri Lanka. Now these associations are very strong as well.
The Western Music Association.
Yeah. So initially, when this COVID came and hit, we are also part of the Event Managers Association of Sri Lanka. So we are called, Haget Sundari as a joke. Everybody calls us Sky because we are part of all these societies. So what happens is, initially when this came into play, when the government introduced the moratorium, which came out for the companies, services were properly defined. So in that particular service definition, we understood that the artistic community or the event community or any sort of thing to do with creativity was not there in that particular definition.
Yeah.
So initially, the Event Management Association of Sri Lanka, when we spoke to the Prime Minister and the authorities, what happened was, see, our industry was not properly consolidated and there was no analytics about the industry. Now, 60% of the reason for that is 60% of our artists don't pay tax. But they expect some sort of help from the government as well. You don't pay anything, but you expect the government to help you. So that is one fundamental problem. And all our associations have not come together. We have a thing called a WM. We have a thing called a Singers Association. We have a thing called another. So we have about 5-6 associations. So initially what we did was we brought all these associations together, and we technically conducted a very, very hypothetical survey. Okay. We didn't have the time or we conducted a hypothetical survey, and we came up with this particular figure of 31.5 billion accumulative turnover in all our creative industries, as in terms of events and creative singing, dancing, everything put together. So when that figure came, we took that data and we went. So we all went and met the Prime Minister. Then we met this we met the Secretary of the Treasury, and they technically readjusted that service definition so that all these industries also would get captured. That was number one. Then the second step was, we told them that 60% of people operating in this environment are not properly registered companies or entities, right? So that was also taken into account as that was also taken into account. And what they did was, they added a clause saying Swayam Vyapare Yedi Sitinam Katya, individuals who do self-employed.
Okay.
Then the whole industry got captured into this. So that was the first thing, right?
Yeah.
Then after that was done, then the second phase was, there are a lot of artists who are not considered in, it's like when you take the revenue, about about 60% of the artists and the players and the musicians technically don't fall under SME as well. They come under low income categories.
Okay.
Now these are artists who will be playing at a hotel, who will be performing at this is not to categorize saying that what they do is small. It is just that when you quantify it, when you quantify the revenues, it was quantified. So we had artists who had a technically a monthly income of 100,000 rupees, maybe 200,000 rupees, maybe 300,000 rupees, 400. So we had various categories of artists.
Yeah, different brackets.
Yes. Then these associations got together and an appeal was made, right, to the finance ministry and the media ministry together with the cultural ministry to introduce a loan facility. See, most of these people didn't fall under the central bank moratorium that was done. But then even after that adjustment, most of them can't apply for anything.
Yeah.
Because they're just individuals. They can't prove, they don't have proof for their working capital, and some of them don't have even any sort of a bank loan or anything. No, they are surviving with what they get. So we asked them, all these associations got together and asked them, can you give a short-term loan to those categories of creative people? So actors also came under that category. So there's a loan of 100,000, there's a loan of 200,000, there's a loan of 300, up to 500,000. Now, how those loans are being issued and what sort of securities and everything, each association has taken the responsibility. So you need to go through your associations, right? And right now, the cabinet has approved it, right? And now the central bank circular is the thing that has to go out to the banks. So that is that. So first, the first thing I said, the second one is that. Now the third thing is, in terms of our industry, and I'm not talking about mostly the Western, the industry, but they are also a part of it. The WMA also came as a part of it. For some of the bands and the musicians who don't seem to have work, period, right, and who fall under those first categories, now there is a program being worked out for like every week 2 concerts to be done on TV, 2 programs to be done on TV, where each musician and singer or band will get to participate this in
Rotate.
Rotation.
Whereas at least some sort of income would come during this time, and they will be able to work a little bit, then stay at home and you know uh, have that time. So these are a few things which are happening, and there are more to come as a result of the accumulative efforts of all the associations. So now the associations, our creative associations, came to some sort of a realization that all this time, because we were cluttered and we were operating in clusters, we couldn't get anything done. Now there is an agreement between all these associations which has to now come into a practical thing. The agreement is that every expo of all these associations, two members will get together and we will form one entertainment and event as an event and entertainment association of Sri Lanka to move forward.
Which is the question I was going to ask. To get a representative of each and create one seems to be the most hassle-free way of going forward. Because a lot of people do.
Yeah. So Stephanie, as in like, this has been happening. I think after the COVID thing, most of the industries which didn't have an association, they have got together and started the associations. For example, the production houses, right? Most of the production houses are governed by the agencies, right? So they do work for all the agencies, but there is no one who looks at the interest of the production houses. So these are the people who make all the television commercials, documentaries, music videos in the country. So it was formed called VEFPA, Video and Film Production Association. So all these organizations went and did that process together, right? As Bhatia said, the first, second, third, that was done. And like as the final was, looking at the TV program for the musicians, right, who cannot currently play, right? So in some kind of remuneration mode, right? And then I would say the fourth, one of the most, say another strong initiative taken during this time. Now, in our industry, if you take starting from the singers, right, some of the singers, then if you take the video production, the event management companies,
the dancers,
the logistics, the dancers, the creative, all these people, they don't work for companies.
Yeah.
Right. So, so just as in Bhatia said, and right now, if you look at the income of certain people and some of the industries, they actually categorize as low income earners, right? So that is there. But thing is, we need to clarify. We need to cluster them as freelancers, right? Mm-hmm. So now these freelancers need to be identified within the industry. So now what? So now the process is, like, for example, if it's the event management industry, they will identify the freelancers, right? The freelancing sound engineers, right? And they will cluster them and they will give some kind of identification, right? Then if it's the production assistants or the cameraman or the choreographers, right? So each, like for example, VEFPA will recognize them, will understand them, so so some kind of recognition plus identification will be given. So that
classification of sorts.
So we know how the industry has formed, right? And we can identify people. Now, once this is identified, the fifth thing that is, I think, taking place, which will really shift the entire entertainment industry to a structural process, will be, we had a chat with the Minister of Industrial Affairs and Entrepreneurship. Currently, the entire music industry of Sri Lanka, the entertainment industry of Sri Lanka, is classified under the Ministry of Cultural Affairs. So, moment something is classified under culture, right? The financial bodies or the structural bodies of the country who take this forward don't see the quantitative aspect of that industry, because they don't see how that industry contributes economically to the country, right? So after we show, once we identify the financial input,
Bhatia said it was about 30.1 billion,
yes,
right?
That's right, yeah. So right now we are in the process of making the industrial, so the Minister of Industries, take the entertainment industry also as an industry, right? Just like the computer industry, just like the banking industry, take the music component entertainment area as an industry, right? So once that is taken into the industry level, yes, financial reforms, all these economic reforms, all this structuring could be brought in, right? So now, for example, if you take other countries like United Kingdom, entertainment industry is identified as a strong industry. So to the extent they even export the intellect. That is why you see Harry Potter, all these things being exported by those countries, right? So right now in Sri Lanka, the intellect we have, maybe books like Gamperaliya to songs of yesteryear and the current beautiful songs, creations, all creative stuff which is created right now within the people of Sri Lanka, it is not taken on to the Ministry of Industries, understood it as the industry, packaged it well, understand different markets, and advise the industry to export it, right? Then give them opportunities how to create revenue for the country. They are how they can contribute to the GDP. Then collaborations of foreign corporations to foreign artists, to all those things. So there'll be a structural process. So this is the fifth thing which is happening right now, and it was actually it was just started as a preliminary thing. So hopefully that will also happen. So by changing our entertainment and music industry, this entire entertainment outfit, the industry under the Ministry of Industries, will have a very focused strategic shift. And I think this will be the start of the blossoming of the music and entertainment industry of Sri Lanka. So currently, all these changes are happening.
Wow, thank you so much, Bhatia and Santosh. It was so comprehensive, and thank you for explaining it to all of us, including everyone who's watching. I saw Dushan. Did you have a comment? You put your hand up. No. Okay. Sorry, I thought maybe you were stretching. Does anybody have anything to add to that?
I think I have something to add to that. I think for these industries to come together and be robust, is we need to have unity. Right now, I feel that it's very divided, and there's a lot of undercutting and there's backbiting. So it's never a united front. So we as an industry, we need to come together, put our differences aside, and all this ego. It's something that we've been trying to do forever. So until that component comes together, I don't know how this is going to work.
No.
And also, if I can add something, not as a moderator here, which is what, like Natasha said, it would be wonderful to actually have a minimum wage requirement for whether it's modeling, whether it's singing, whether it's dancing, and nobody can quote lower than that. So then I find a lot of people can actually progress in their careers as well.
So in order that to happen, Steph, we have to be united, because you can't, how this industry works, right?
Natasha,
yes,
that's the primary problem that our industry has been having. See,
yes.
there has to be a quantification kind of a process. So this talking about getting together, unity, all that will happen when a structure is working on certain objectives which will really work for you.
Benefit.
So now the associations have got together, and the primary associations, it's happening.
Okay.
Right now, though you don't see it, still it has not come down. This 4 weeks, if you see how strategically the associations, including I should say about Rajita from WMA, I have to thank him. He was a part of all our discussions. So we picked and chose people who can switch from heart to brain, because most of our creative people only use their heart to think and feel both, right? So we picked and chose a team who is objective and also who can feel when they do their job. So these 4 weeks, we have proven that things are coming together. So we never spoke about, now if you take our, if I can explain to you, if you take our event management association, 1.5 years ago, most of the event companies who are a part of the exco were fierce competitors, very fierce competitors. But when we brought all the industry objectives together and when everybody saw, okay, these objectives can really bring all of us, something good, objectively now we have become one team. So this is what we have been trying to do with all these associations, and it's happening now. So it'll take a bit of a, it'll take a year or two. But what we did was we assembled a very objective team from all the industries, from the WMA, from the band association, from the Oriental Singers Association, everything. And we got a team together to go and fight objectively. So this is happening. And through this process, you will see that what you're seeking will come. What you're seeking will come through this process, because when the process is right, when things fall into a framework, you will see how people come and align. So right now we are trying this process.
Thank you. So now we spoke about all the structural changes that are taking place, that will take place. What can people do? So fans, people who love the artists and who want the entertainment industry to flourish, what little things can they do in order to support their artists? Because I know, for example, Botti and Saunders are doing the very first drive-through concert, which is happening soon, which is, I think, really interesting. We're going back to our basics, where people come in their cars, tune in through the radio. Only thing is maybe not a lot of cuddling will go on as much as it used to in the cars before because of social distance.
You want to cuddle as well if you want to cuddle.
Trust you to bring that up, Stephanie.
I'll take off my mask if you take off yours.
Smooching is not allowed. Cuddling
not allowed. Oh, sorry. I was just checking.
I just wanted to share something with you. I was having a conversation with a friend, and he brought this thing. He said, Natasha, it's been really devastating. There was so many devastating stories about musicians not having the means to survive right now, that they have resorted to even selling fish from their, sound lorries and coconuts and vegetables from the back of their vehicles. So I said, personally, I don't see anything wrong in that, right? Because we've got to, I'm speaking to everyone who's listening, we've got to, right now it's a crisis and we don't really need to look down on people. So I don't look at it from a negative perspective. If he came to me and if my, my life depended on this, I would do it as well. If it's something that I had to do to survive, I would definitely do it. So a lot of people are kind of like anxious about what's going to happen in the future. And so these things are taking place doing this, but I would say you don't have to be embarrassed. There's nothing to be ashamed of, wanting to survive. We've got to do anything and everything to.
You got to do what you got to do.
Absolutely.
No, say if a established corporate can go in from their whatever they are doing, the core business, and do something else, so it's a very similar situation. Now, if and can stop really stitching garments and go into making face masks, so then somebody can stop.
Like I do.
Stephanie, the question you asked is basically what can the fans do to support artists?
Thank you, Randy. Thank you for keeping it on track.
So look, that answer, that question's a little close to home. It's actually very current right now. Piracy. All right, stop pirating. A friend of mine who's in a very, very, very underground, very popular hip hop outfit called Drill Team. All right. They released an album today morning, right? And it went live on Apple Music and on Spotify, right? Couple of hours ago, the guy sends me a message saying, "Think badak na aye, api metra me salary vidan karla, metana me music video hadala, Sindhu walata invest karla, songwriters atat me ගෙවලා වැඩක් නැහැ. මොකද දැනටමත් මේ කවුද එක්කෙනෙක් Spotify Apple Music වලින් ඒ ටික මේ download කරලා, and they've been distributing it on WhatsApp. All right. So fans also, it's like this, right? Since the days of Napster, okay, and especially since the days of social media, fans, consumers of music and film and anything creative, they have gotten used to this very buffet model of everything, like all the content in the world I like for as little as I can pay, or even free. Okay, so that mindset has to kind of change. I mean, people, if especially at a time like this, there's not a hell of a lot of revenue coming to artists from streaming to begin with in Sri Lanka, right? What I'm saying is the least you can do is at least pay that few cents, that few that few cents in US dollars or whatever, and just stream.
Randhir,
yeah,
brother, I think there's also a scenario, bro, where we need to bring into consideration that it's not just the behavioral patterns of the customer and the consumers and music fans that have changed. The music fan, what we call a music fan itself, has changed now, hasn't it? I mean, if you take a lot of us, how we grew up listening to music, I mean, we are from different genres, right? But all of us can rock to Informer. We'd all know it, right? We'd all know Living on a Prayer. We'd all know Hotel California, right? My point is, music played a different role in all our lives because we are from a different generation. So I'm not putting down millennials, but let me seriously tell you that their mindsets have changed. There's this new woke culture, this new sense of entitlement where people have everything instantaneously at the press of a button, everything instantaneously at the tip of their fingertips. This is something that has impacted, I think, across the board, whether it be film, whether it be theater, whether it be music. I think it's all hit, Maza. So, like, I'm not detracting from what you're saying. I think there is an element we have to bring into consideration, the psychosis of the new generations of music listeners. And music all, see, I know we are the creators, so we feel like they're stealing from us, right? But they don't see it as stealing. They see it as them being entitled to have something that the whole lot of them have been doing, like you said, since Napster. So
they're helping us to spread our music. That's what they think.
So now, how do we? Maybe we have all been attacking this. Attack is a very heavy metal thing for me to say. No, maybe we've been approaching this the wrong way. Maybe, like, we can't chastise a generation of people who think a certain way. It's true, guys. It's true. I know people where you can put a bunch of kids today in a room where they meet up for a party, and they'll all be on their phones. Wait for it. Messaging each other in the same space, next to each other on the phones. Gone are the days where a bunch of people will meet, where a lot of us will meet, have a chat, have a drink or a smoke, and discuss world events and how our lives are. That's gone. It's gone now. So there's no point basking over nostalgia.
Desperately, though.
There's no point. Stephanie, my point is, I think we've also come to realize that there's no point basking over nostalgia. It's a bygone thing, Randhir. So I don't know how we can change. How we can change the mindset.
So that's something I guess we should all kind of.
But Randhir,
just to say, guys, we have to wrap up in the next 5 minutes.
Really?
So I also would like.
I thought we were just getting started.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well.
So many questions. Maybe
just getting in there.
I know. I feel the same.
Yeah,
but unfortunately,
you got a bunch of people where you ask one question.
I know.
And we give such comprehensive answers.
Why do you think I chose that format?
Triggered all of us.
So I would also like to have closing remarks from everyone. And so before that, Natasha, you were saying something. So
I was adding to what Randhir said. I mean, if they are doing that, Randhir, I mean, if people are downloading from, pirating the music, right? Doesn't that fall under, I mean, don't we still get, if you're monetized your music, don't we have some sort of revenue coming from that?
That kind of, that
it's a broad, I know it's a complex, It's
that works mostly on YouTube. So say, for example, if you are the owner of a particular creative work and another YouTube channel has maybe duplicated it in some way, if you're attached to a content aggregator, the content aggregator on your behalf can basically claim whatever ad revenue that other channel, that pirating channel is earning and paid to you. So you might find this sometimes, like say if you upload a cover version of something to YouTube, right? And you monetize it, or you turn off monetization, you'll very soon get something in your inbox saying that XYZ has just flagged this as a copyright violation, and that you won't be paid anything for this. So on YouTube, things like that are pretty under control. It's just that in the streaming environment, it's a little hard to track down who's downloading, who's ripping stuff off the platform. So yeah, but I mean, anyway, like Suresh also said, this is the reality of things, and this is what we have to get used to. So if you're thinking of monetizing recorded music, those days are gone. So hello, all the new other exciting ways of monetizing music. Can I just go straight into my closing
I just got a message from the
there?
organizers who heard all our grievances as to, I thought this was getting started, and they said we can go on a little longer. So one of the questions I would like to ask is, as I've mentioned, the drive-through concert, what is the future of concerts? We've had Lady Gaga's One World concert that was done by the World Health Organization, where it was, artists from all over the world who took part. Now BNS are doing the very first drive-through concert. How do you foresee that live events, whether it's a wedding, whether it's concerts, what is the future of this event industry, and how artists go and give their services?
Can I explain that to you? So 2 days ago, I'm answering from the perspective of the Sri Lanka Event Management Association, by the way.
Okay. Amoge Sundari, right?
As Botti and Saunders. So 2 days ago, we had a very special conference or a meeting together with the Ministry of Health, right? Now they are taking into consideration various people from various fields, their opinions as well, and they have formed a particular committee for the restarting process of these events and executions. Right now in my hand, this is the document which will come out maybe tomorrow or day after, and to everybody, this is talking about unmentions, the do's and the don'ts. This talks about launches, this talks about weddings, everything covered in this. This is a document, a comprehensive document done by the government for the event and the entertainment industry. So in making those, they got expert opinions from various people, like the suppliers to the event people and artists and everybody. So you will get this handout, but only thing which is not covered in this is concerts. So what we are doing.
Why are concerts not covered there, Botti?
Because they still have not got a right model that they consider safe. So this first thing that we are doing is also part of an experimental process together with a lot of people, as in from Health Ministry, from the Defense. We have got a lot of support for this, and it is done in a controlled environment. Because of that, we want to see whether this will work. Then if this works, then we'll see the pros and cons and see how the government will then implement this. But in terms of, you asked about you asked on weddings and other kind of events, brand launches and stuff.
Yeah.
So documents specifies, they still haven't said from when. We are hoping that it's June. Mm-hmm. They have specified down to the bone, like say how you sit people down, like how many people per table as per the table size as well. Because Sri Lanka has 4 table sizes involved. Yeah. 4 standard table sizes, the round, the oval, the square and the rectangle. We have standard size. So down to how that seating is done, how many people can be accommodated at any event, how many dancers can dance. So as I know, it's still only 4 dancers. That's
Oh.
also because usually a stage size they need to stand, and dancers when they stand, they have to stand. It's not on like we are told to stand 1 meter apart, but because of what they do, it's a longer kind of a length. So they have gone into specifications and how equipment, like say for example, if you have like LED screen, up to 6.5 feet you need to spray it with alcohol and you need to sanitize it. There's a lot of instructions in that, and that instruction, once it's done, will be passed on to the industries. And we are really hoping that the government will give the green light for the event industry, for the entertainment industry, to start opening up from June. We are hoping, as I said. And with that, they have done a few other experimental concepts as well. So they did with the army. I think they tried out where people sit like every meter apart, and they tried out something small with the army, navy, or the air force. I can't remember whichever. And then with us, there is an experimental phase going out in how to do this drive-in concept. And I'm telling you, the logistics of this is a nightmare. We had a meeting for 4 hours today with all the stakeholders about how to do this. So a process will be implemented.
Sorry,
but
the line isn't so good.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, Botti, you're clear.
So the process will be implemented, and you will see a clear-cut rules and regulations very soon. And I think our industry will slowly start to operate. But also, we will have to find alternate, like everybody was explaining, we will have to find alternate norms as well, because the world will be moving on to that side. So we will have to go for alternate norms as well. But the usual things will have to be done under these strict guidelines until they say it's safe to do the way we did back in the day, or maybe they'll say, no, you can't do the same things like what you used to do.
So,
I don't know.
Stephanie,
But
I mean, while
there is a guideline
like say answer the question, like as into what will happen, right? Now, apart from all these things that we're discussing with the government and whatever the precautionary measures, right? Certain industries have started, taking precautionary measures, as in like the video industry has already started shooting. They've given the government the way the entire procedure how it's going to happen, and they've agreed. So industries are evolving and it's happening. But only thing, I mean, this is now the people who are watching, the musicians, people in the industry, and the people who want to be a part of the music industry. This is, in a nutshell, I would say, we have resumed work. The entire country is now slowly getting back. Right? If we don't have a second phase, right, maybe around the second week, by the second week of June, right, we don't have a second phase, and I personally feel, I think things will get back to normal very soon, right? By August, September, if there is no second wave in June, right, things will get back to normal. And for some reason, if our countrymen are, maybe they're immune to it, or for some kind of thing, if we are lucky, we have, I don't know. I'm just being very, very positive. If there is no second phase, then probably with time, things will get back to normal. But we don't know what the future holds, right? But in case there is a negative impact, and maybe we need to take serious precaution again, right? Then of course, yes, we'll have to find out ways and means of surviving in the music industry, especially the events business, right?
Yeah.
So but I have this very strange feeling. I think Sri Lanka as a country will come out of it, because I think the health authorities have been doing very well. So as long as things don't open up and some big thing doesn't happen, I think the music I think the functions of all the industries will start. But finally, only thing I tell you is this COVID thing will keep certain patches in our system, right? So those things I think we'll have to adapt. Maybe masks, or keeping that gap. Certain things it will
No, 3
have a
kisses
dent.
and a hug.
Yeah, it will have a dent in the industry, right? So I think positive, right? Think positive and see how we could, evolve and, make the best out of it. So everyone watching, let's think very positive. Let's not think negative. Let's think very positive and let's come out of this.
Did anyone have any, Suresh?
I agree with Bhatya. Just to add, besides, masks are very kinky. Please continue.
I have a few you can order.
Stephanie,
Oh my
Not,
God.
not the
Not a
kind I'm
cue.
talking about, but okay, thank you.
How do you know?
Stephanie, if I can just
Yeah.
just add a few words to that. First up, I think the industry in general, I think might be a bit premature, but I mean, big thank you to Santosh and Bhati, who've been like kind of out there sort of discussing things on
All of our
everyone's
behalf.
I mean, yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
everybody.
that's
I
true.
mean,
That's true.
I think in this when the event industry started to get threatened, they were the first to be kind of proactive and sort of go out there and get the ball rolling. So that's fully appreciated.
Seriously,
all right, fully appreciated. Just to take a leaf out of what Santosh said, you need to be creative when your main sort of when your business model is threatened. You have to evolve. All right. So as a person who comes from the advertising industry myself, all right, one thing I found is, I mean, if you a lot of concerts, they run on sponsorships by brands. Investments by brands is what basically sustains the concert industry. Okay, it's what makes it feasible for a promoter to actually go out there and do a show. The thing is, if as a musician, if you want to put yourself in front of an audience and charge for it, the brand money is still there, the sponsorships are still there, but now the concert platform is different. The concert hall is no longer available, but Facebook is, Zoom is, Instagram is, and
Yeah,
guess
that's
what?
true.
And
Party, what is that party? There's some party thing.
there's house party.
House
But
party.
guess what? Okay, a concert hall can hold 2,000 people. Okay, maximum. On Facebook, you have access to a huge hundreds upon thousands
Can
of people.
boost it as
right?
well.
So the reach, exactly. So the reach you're giving a brand there is a lot more. Right? So you can still make an argument for a brand to sponsor a concert, but the platform will be different. The platform will be on Facebook. We trialed something like this with a coffee brand just last month. All right. If we had done that in a concert hall, we would have reached about say 1,600 to about 2,000 people maximum. Okay. We streamed that live for 1 hour. We reached 14,000 people. Each of them with an average viewing time of at least about, it was 1 hour with an average viewing time of at least about 10 to 15 minutes. Now for social media metrics,
Yeah, that's
nuts.
a lot. Yeah.
Okay. Mind you, you're on Facebook, you're scrolling up and down, you've got chat messages popping up. And the fact that you give 15 minutes of your attention towards a concert on Facebook, that's interesting. So, I mean, exactly like what everyone's been saying, you have to innovate. The opportunity is there. The fans still want to be entertained. The fans still want to see concerts. As an artist, take ownership of the problem, all right, and try and think around it, all right. We don't have to live with Corona. We have to live around Corona. Okay? So yeah, that's my little 2 cents.
No, thank you so much. Anything else to add on that? Because I actually had a question to Bhatia, but maybe I saw him on a call. Maybe Santosh, you could answer this. Now, when we spoke about copyright, we spoke about how the law existed, yet we didn't have a body to implement it. And as my question was, the document that Bhatia said will be coming out, it's great, to keep all those precautions, to make sure events and all can take place in a safe manner. But who's going to be making sure and ensuring that those will be implemented, that events are supervised? I mean, that's a lot of, how do you know when someone's breaking one of the rules? What are the repercussions for it?
Yeah, now the first thing you said was with regard to the copyrights. Right?
Yes.
So now what Bhatia showed was nothing to do with the copyrights. What
I know.
showed,
I made a parallel.
What he showed was with regard to the events management.
Yes.
Right? So whatever the physical components that you have to safeguard, your precautions, all those things, right? So with regard to the say for example, if it's an event, right? And then the event management company proposes certain precautionary things to be implemented by all the events by all the event companies, right? So the people who will make the people who will make sure that, or at least who will administer or support, right, the fact that these things will be implemented would be the Minister of Defense, okay, who's looking into this. Secondly, the police, right? And
They will
then
be present at events, is it?
no, it all depends on. And then thirdly, it would be the Tosha, right? Thirdly, it would be the Minister of Health, right? Say the Health Service, right? So the PHIs. So what will happen is, sorry guys, right? So what will happen is maybe they might implement certain random checks, or for certain events they will have security. But finally, the responsibility will be vested with them to make sure that if there is any malpractice, that the law is implemented, that operations are done. So, but it is the responsibility of the event organizer or the event companies or the music company who's responsible to make sure that it is, the operations are done properly, right? So, same way, I'm just touching on the copyright thing since you mentioned, the same way, the day that we have a strong collection society, a body which will look at the financial aspect of the copyrights of the artist, of the creator, right? Yes, same way, they will also take the operations forward and make sure that the rights are protected and the remunerations are brought in. So those respective authorities will take it forward.
Thank you. So I kind of want to shift to another stream, which is, see, we're all talking about the digital revolution. We're moving into the digital space a lot more than we are. And one thing that even came just with even the birth of Facebook, Instagram, is a lot of keyboard warriors, a lot of haters, a lot of course, you have your fans and whatnot, but you also get a lot of, keyboard warriors. How do you deal with that? And what's your advice? So maybe if each one of you, because I know all of you have gotten different types of haters, different types of criticisms based on the different industries, in the different spaces that you'll occupy within the entertainment field. So maybe if you can all touch upon how you personally deal with it and what your advice to others who might be going through this, how they can handle it, and also maybe some advice on how, maybe to the haters themselves, on how to be a little more constructive in their approach. Shall we start with who wants to go first? Dushyant, Suresh, Natasha, Andy? I said all your names. Atif, Santosh.
You want all of us to go together?
Oh, yeah.
How is that? I don't know. Can I say something? I think, and this might be the most surprising answer from this particular devil in this panel with all these angels. I think it takes two hands to clap.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that any of us are above criticism, providing that the criticism is constructive. And this is one thing that my friend Natasha has also taught me through the years. I know Chokolaate Magazine, I have been behaving very much. I've been using a lot of euphemisms, and have you heard me talk normally? We shouldn't give a shit. I just said shit, okay, so that's okay.
Yeah, you can let it slide.
We shouldn't let, there are things that should rattle our cages, and I think there's, thank you Dialogue, they're sending me message after message that anyway, it's Dialogue, what do you expect? I think naturally, as human beings, as musicians, as creators, content creators, as performers, as artists who are so invested in what we do, it touches a personal nerve when people go out and call us, right? But I think we have a responsibility and a sense of accountability as artists to think of the cause and effect aspect and the repercussions of retaliating sometimes with these people. And it's a very difficult thing to do. But I would say that in Stigmata, and our life has got much better and peaceful as a result of it. You know, the haters are gonna hate, but in terms of it being a digitalized stream, whether they dislike you or like you, they're still giving you engagement on your channel. They're still going through the effort of all that entire effort of spending time to go online to log in and hate your ass. And I would tell the haters, thank you, because I think it was David Vincent of Morbid Angel, a lovely band. You all should all check out. They just do lullabies. Morbid Angel, David Vincent said that you ain't doing something right unless people start to hate you. And I think those are very powerful and resonant words. I think all of us have haters, right, guys? Oh boy, do we. We have very creative haters, right, for all kinds of reasons. But I think when they just add more fuel to the fire and they douse that fire, it just should inspire and drive us to be better versions of who we are and to be better musicians, to continue doing what we do, right? Without any haters at all, I think that would mean that we are irrelevant. So it just shows relevance and shows that at least we are reaching out to people. You can't make everyone happy now. If the lot of us decide to change our hair and we go and sit in front of 10 of our friends, you know, they're going to tell us a lot of different things. Some will say they love it. Some will say, oh, wow, where did you get that done? And then behind our backs, they'll be like, look at that idiot, right? And then there are people who will say, I don't like it, Macha. You look so much better before. So we can't please everyone. We need to remember that. And all of us knew this when we got into this business, right? So that's what I have to say.
Thick skin, yeah, to develop that. Natasha?
No, I think you shouldn't give attention to any of these people, because obviously if they're hating on you, they're how I see it is they look at you as some sort of you know, how do I say it, someone they look up to, and just like you know, Suresh said, I mean, it's that energy. I mean, they're so passionate about hating you, that also derives from a sense of, you know, wanting to be you, you know. So, but I think it's important not to give attention to these things. Back in the day, I too, like Suresh said, I mean, we are all creative people and we think from our hearts, and you know, we get emotional. But now, I mean, when you accept, it also comes with accepting your authenticity. When you actually know who you are and what you're about, you don't need to apologize, you know, because whatever we are doing, whatever content that we're putting out is well thought through. I mean, you know, you see all your heart and soul. So when you put that out, and if someone criticizes them, that's their baby. You shouldn't be affected by it. But yes, there are constructive criticism and there is non-constructive criticism. So you have to know, you know, what that is. You know, you need to know what that is. But I don't think you should ever let that define you as an artist, because and always focus on positivity, because when you focus on positivity, you attract more positivity. That's how I see things, and I have you know, started doing things. All the young artists out there, if you don't want criticism, you're in the wrong industry. You should just find something else to do, because I mean, it's something, it comes with your territory. So if you're not being criticized, then that's a question too you need to ask, because then you're not really meeting to any standards. I mean, whatever standards that these. But having said that, society doesn't define you. The world doesn't define you. Your creativity is your own, and just do what you love doing, and just put out what you feel that comes from your heart. You know, that's how I see things.
Oh, thank you so much. Dushyant?
Yeah, so I actually have few haters who are actually good friends now, because I've actually got into dialogue with them. We've understood each other so much better. So I think it is how you take it, it's how personally you take it and how you want to deal with the criticism. Some, like Natasha said, it's constructive and sometimes it's just not anything important. But yet again, some of these criticism can be helpful for you. And sometimes I've even found, these people who call themselves the trollers, they just come out there, say some just to bash you.
They
But
just want attention.
I have come to understand that but the thing is, I've also noticed these trollers are actually so much more intelligent than normal, ordinary fans. These guys have an amazing skill to come back. It's just that when you find they're coming from a place where they're trying to find some...
to reply, or
Yes, sometimes they reply and we have a dialogue, complete dialogue. Sometimes it's just hating each other. But of course, I try to be careful because it's not good for me to be hating in a public forum, because most of these haters or these trollers, they don't come with a real profile. They come with a fake profile, right? So as much as they do try to attack me personally or for my work or sometimes to people who are loved ones, I have somewhat maybe acquire a certain tactic to figure out what their real problem is, and to actually to make them understand that they are hating me or the rest of the world is because they're actually having some other insecurity or some void in their lives. And sometimes when you point that out to them, they become such good friends. They're like, man, Tushan, I never thought you're that kind of guy. I love you. I actually love your music. I just want to come and say shit because everybody's saying good stuff. So there are good things that can come out of the haters. It's just that how you tackle them, and how you take it, how personally you take it.
Would you guys agree with me that, when you hate on something, you hate a reflection of what you are, basically?
Or what you're not, what you want to be, but you can't achieve it. Sorry, but that's...
Yeah, I guess you can.
I think there's elements of truth to both of those.
Yeah.
A lot of haters are people who are actually more envious.
Because they can't get what you have.
Santosh?
Maybe, yeah.
Santosh?
I would say, as an artist, it is important to do what you believe, what you like, and follow your passion, and do what your heart says, right? So that's what art is all about, right? Express yourself freely and say what you have to say. When you say what you have to say, when you express whatever you want to say, always remember that there'll be people from the other side also who will also react. So they also have a right to express, right? So same way they have a right to express, you also need to understand that, yes, you have to respect everyone's opinion, right? But just because you respect everyone's opinion, just because you agree, it doesn't mean that you have to change your philosophy, right? You could always carry on with what you believe. But somewhere down the line, you should always be open to some of the criticism and see and understand whether it is constructive.
Yeah.
Because somewhere down the line, you will feel, yes, what they say, what he or she is saying is constructive. I need to change. I had to understand that better. Right? Probably I need to change that. So those things would be something very, very qualitative, something, it can be maybe a structural thing, whatever. Right? But you have to be open. Then with time, you will really, you won't understand at all, right? I'm telling you, with years and years, how to evolve, right? You, even though you passionately like a particular thing, with time you will understand that a majority is not understanding your creatives, is not understanding what you're saying. Even though you really believe, and even though there is nothing wrong in what you do, there might be quite a critical market of people out there, whatever segment, whatever TG, target group, whatever you call, right? There'll be a very strong fat segment who will not agree with you. That is the time where you have to put effort critical effort to understand what is wrong with you, right? You have to understand the creative that you're not understanding yourself. So this is the time where you have to, right? It's called a paradigm shift of your creativity. You need to put an effort to understand another genre of creative. You need to understand, put effort to understand another era of creatives, right? So you have to evolve.
And
So
that comes with humility as well.
very much, you know. So so I would say, as a as a creator or as a creative person, whatever you do, number one, don't stop what you believe, right? Those, because that makes your foundation, that creates your sound, that creates who you are, right? That makes you an artist. But while you're doing that, this is the process. You have to respect what other people say, and then evolve, understand new things, put a lot of effort to understand new things. And yes, you will evolve, you will be with the people, you will create a change within the people. And somewhere down the line, you realize years and years will go by, and then somewhere down the line, people will call you an artist.
Thank you. Bhatia? Now all of you have shifted places, so Bhatia and Randy.
So what I have to say is also what very close to what I think Aushant was saying. Basically, for me also, what I do is are you guys in the same proximity now?
Yes, I'm sorry, you just walked by.
Social distancing, by the fact that you're husband and wife.
Yeah.
Anyway, just kidding. So coming back to what I was saying, I have to agree with what Tushan says. The way that I handle most of our fans, so fans and haters, is you need to convert most of your haters as your fans as well at one point.
Yeah.
So if somebody, there have been a lot of instances even on FB, on social media. See, one thing that we as as as
Musicians.
BNS, what we have crafted over the years is, now we don't get too happy nor too sad for if somebody really comes and says, wow, you guys are brilliant. We really don't get really too happy about it, or we take the objective part of it, saying yes, we have done something right for this guy to be so overwhelmed and really happy about it. And if somebody really comes and says, you guys are bad, or start really hating you also, we are quite blank about it, but we take the objective part in. So in that environment, sometimes, as what Dushyant actually said, sometimes haters, when you really talk to them, when you really get down to what they really want to say, most of them have some sort of, they actually envy you to a great extent. And that after some time, for some reason, it turns into, the negative side of the story. So most of the time, about 80% of the time, you start a conversation with them, start having objective conversation with them, most of them, 80% of them will become, will come onto your side. But 20%.
Sorry, Natasha?
I read that if someone hates you, that's a deep-rooted love for you, actually. It is true. It is true. I mean, basically, yeah.
So
does that mean love comes from hate?
No.
It has.
This is why I'm still single.
Don't shift tracks. No, we are talking about love and hate. Let's not go there. So what happens is, once you get that 80% on your side, there's going to be a 20%, no matter what. See, everything and everyone, right? Now, even if you take us, there are certain kinds of foods that we really don't like, even though we try it out and we know it's just that way, that the way this world is. There is about a 20% of people who will not like you for no reason. So just keep them out. Don't take them into that equation, or don't get affected by what they say, because they will hate you even though you prove to them that what they're saying is wrong. They hate you. So everything has that. Everyone has that. So So I think, you should not be too affected by haters or whatever. Just try to explain or objectively have a conversation with them and try to make them your friends first. And if you can't, just that's all.
Thank you.
Stephanie,
Thank
over
you
to
so much, Bhatia. Sorry, I got stuck for a bit. Thank you. Randir?
Okay, there is honestly not much I can say because everything has been covered. So what I'll do is I'll offer some real world case studies, okay, using myself as a subject here as to reinforce some of the things you guys have said. So what Santosh said earlier kind of is very valuable. Like if people are criticizing you, you need to sort of you get some insights on those people and understand where that criticism is coming from with something constructive. I can tell you that, insights are super important. Okay. I'll tell you a couple of places where I have misfired. So I have always been under the impression that, I kind of, when I sing in Sinhalese, I have a slight twang and, that can be misconstrued as, sort of like foreign. And because of that, sometimes the audience might get a bit unfamiliar with me. To date, nobody has ever sort of an audience member or a fan has never ever pulled that up, has never made an issue of that. Now, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, so I struggle to sing in Sinhalese, but I'm very comfortable singing in English. Okay. So like I said earlier, close upon, 10 to 12 years of doing this, not a single comment on my Sinhalese accent. Good Lord, one fine day, I sing a cover of Shape of You for some music program, for some website. That damn thing goes on Facebook. Holy mother of God, the drummer plays the song a little faster than usual. And Jesus Christ, the hate I'm getting. Like, you ruined it, you destroyed it, how could you? And they're tagging Ed Sheeran as well, man. Can you believe this? Okay. So I was like, okay, talk about ironic. I mean, this is what I thought I could do well, but here it is. So that was just a funny anecdote, just what everybody said. I'm in full agreement. You have to maintain some kind of integrity in what you do, and there'll be the constructive critics and the ones who are not so constructive. Concern yourself with the constructive critics. Concern yourself with the fans you have and the people who are saying good about you, but at the same time also pay attention to the criticism that might actually be of use to you. Okay. And at the same time, I mean, and this goes especially for, I think, female performers, female models, performers, any kind of performing artist who's a female, right? On Sri Lankans, on any kind of social media right now. Social media can be a very unforgiving place if you're a girl, and people are able to pinpoint something about you that they can exploit. All right, I remember seeing something where a famous actress was asked what the capital of Sri Lanka was, and her misfortune, she answered wrong. And oh my God, the social media threads on that, it was despicable. I mean, the kind of language they were using. So, especially if you're a girl,
Now at the final question before I ask you all to have your closing remarks. So the question I want to a healthy balance between one, your artistic soul, and your side catering to the market and feeding it what it wants. Ringtone culture in mind, or it's just how do you strike that happy medium where both parties are happy, where you're kind of giving them what they want while still doing what you want. Like, it's a very tough place to be. So how do you deal with it? How did you find your mediums? Are you still searching for it? And what advice can you give others who are confused? Because at the end, you need to make money too, but you also want to be an artist, a true artist. Who wants to go first? Not everybody at the same time, guys.
Let's ask yes first.
All right. Bhatia?
at the end, maybe right at the start.
Yeah, I think so too.
I know, because we have a lot of time, so I knew this would be a good one.
I think because I have a different kind of thing to say. That so probably you start. I'll come in later.
I'm measuring time here.
Of executing that to an audience without sacrificing your art. Now, to me, that is very important. I will give you guys an example. I have nothing against music being sung trilingually. In fact, I hear some stuff that you guys have created, singular Tamil music, and I think it's beautiful. But I am not comfortable as a frontman doing it because, unfortunately or fortunately, my upbringing was very connected holistically to Western culture. Singing in English, watching English movies. Uh, when I was maybe 8 or 9 years old, the first time I saw things like Predator and Terminator, that stuff stuck with me. Aliens, and uh, a, a, a lot of that stuff, like the darker sentiments of humankind. Um, Even if it's literature, not just Stephen King, but I think Santosh, you're the one who mentioned Mozart and Shakespeare right in the start, if my memory doesn't fail me. I mean, if you take classical composers, like everyone from Beethoven to Mozart to Paganini and Vivaldi, there was a lot of light in their music, but there was a lot of seasons also. There were season peaks and dips, and there's a lot of darker shades. You take inventors like Da Vinci, you talk about different artists, or you talk about playwrights like Shakespeare, you talk about poets like Edgar Allan Poe or Blake, or you take early authors like H.P. Lovecraft, who is one of the masters of cosmic horror. The point is, they found something that touches the human soul. And it doesn't always have to be what is traditional and conventional. And that's my point. Sure, it's a wonderful thing to make people smile. It's a wonderful thing to bring joy to people's hearts. But at the same time, to be able to provoke human reaction and to be able to create something that's very subversive and visceral and vivid and resonant, I think that is also catering to the human psyche and the emotion. So what I'm trying to say is, it's very important that your art manifests itself with who you kind of really are and what you're comfortable in saying. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we should not explore. I'm not saying we should not experiment. In fact, we are called pure Sri Lankan metal with what we've done, because I would say that we are one of the first and few bands in the world from Southeast Asia that incorporates a Sri Lankan sound. I do not sing in Sinhalese, but it does not mean in terms of our musical arrangements, the time signatures, how we achieve and create counterpoint with fusing in a world music element. We are very loud and proud about being Sri Lankan, but I think it's also important to do what you can and understand your limitations. I cannot sing in Sinhalese the way you guys do. Therefore, I don't. The epitome of my singing skills is at the Royal Thomian Big Match. And I do a great job there. But so does everyone else who's at the Royal Thomian Big Match, because everyone becomes a singer at some point, right? So you catch my drift. I love opera. I love theater. I mean, I love singing in Italian. I love singing things like Andrea Bocelli and Pavarotti and Placido Domingo. I don't do that on stage, not because I can't, but I'm inspired and influenced, and I've understood what my strengths are. And I know it's important for us to convert our weaknesses to strengths. But I think good at, and you figure out how you can enhance it and make it progressively better. So you have to be comfortable in your own skin. I think that's important. And to figure out how to monetize what you're doing, I think you have to give your audience something of value, something of such intrinsic, personal, subliminal value that they will revisit you. Sure, marketing is great, management is great, advertising is great, promotions are great. But I believe at the end of the day, you play live, no tricks, no gimmicks, you're bleeding on that stage. They see you performing for real, and they understand, okay, these guys are the real deal. These guys are here every single night giving us their 101%. We performed with fractures, we performed with broken noses, we performed having influenza. I'm not setting a trend here. No one wants to perform with Corona.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that we do what we do, right, guys? No matter what. And I think we soldier on and we brave the storms. But it's important, and I'll end with this. It's important as musicians and creative people and as artists. I'm also from the creative industry. I have been for 20 years. I'm an author and I'm a writer as well, podcaster, and I have my voice artistry channel. I think it's very important to understand what matters to you, what has meaning to you, and what matters to someone else. And if we can create a bridge, I think that is truly a beautiful thing. But you can't always create and conceive a bridge to connect different people. What we do as art will not translate with some people, and we are fine with that. I think at some point you have to learn to accept it and move on. It doesn't mean that you're not trying to reach out to new audiences, but it means that you need to at some point realize that what you're doing is an acquired taste, and that's fine. So cater to the people also that you know will share in the same love and passion for your art. Thank you very much. Sorry I went on for so long.
No, I think that was great. Thank you. Botti, Santosh, do you want to go now, or you want to, since you're the one who passed, would you like to go? Okay, Santosh. Mr. Veeramansini, can you hear me?
Okay, if you can just rephrase. Okay, can you rephrase your question, because I was quite engrossed in his answer, and my mind started going here and there now. Exactly, focus me back onto the question, please.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, great. So the question was, how do you stay authentic to yourself and your artistic spirit, your artistic soul, whilst still catering? Because at the end of the day, you have your artistic soul and you want to express yourself, but maybe that's not what the market, wants to hear. Santosh brought up the word, retail model. At the end of the day, you're selling a product. So how do you find that happy balance between your artistic soul as well as catering to what the market might want, and keep both parties happy and succeed? Because it's a very, I think it's a question we ask ourselves quite often. Is this really, or am I just...
Can I answer that in a way that, okay, so when you talk about artists, let's keep out the phrase that was brought in by Santosh saying you have to be able to, do some sort of retail. Let's keep the word retail out. I genuinely think...
Because you still need to monetize off it, because you want to be an artist.
Yeah, so I genuinely think there are three kinds of personalities in the industry as artists. Three kind of personalities. There is, number one is people who are say they are ground up, the way they have been molded is with what, like from the start, right? They are made in a mold. So then you can be authentically, like what Suresh was saying, you're a rocker. And for the whole of your life, you're a rocker. Right? Then you get another kind of people who don't have that authenticity about them. They'll change according to the market. They'll just change, but their actual inner feeling is not that. Their inner mold is not that. They don't have a mold. They are after the money. But also there are people, now if you take me, right, genuinely, I don't know, I think we as Botti and Saunders, we have the ability of genuinely adapting and genuinely enjoying a lot of genres. You put Jyotipala, you put like a band like say Aerosmith in front of us. You put a band like Guns N' Roses. You put Snow. Me, after a few, after enjoying it for a few moments, we can actually get into it. Right? There are few. So that is the third kind. And it is not a question of whether that is the in thing or whether that is the commercial thing. Now, if you take us, we sang opera. You know that I play classical. Yes. I truly enjoy that. I can go to opera. I can sit down and enjoy opera. I can sit through for 1 hour. Same way I can go to a rock concert and I can really go in front of Horatia's stage and I can headbang while he's playing. So there is a set of artists who are very, very adaptable. And in that zone, what you make, right? What you make is an authentic product which comes out. You understand what I mean? So as an artist, you need to figure out which one of these three you are, and I think the most authentic people are people from those two genres. I said, guys having that one more, and guys who can, like morph. Like they are like those morph, those people who can morph, go through walls, become liquid.
I think you're talking about Mystique from X-Men.
Yeah, you're talking about a few artists who can become like liquid. It's an authentic thing, but they can shape, go around and come back, and they can form back into their original form as well. You know what I mean?
On a side note, I have to say, I think you'd be a fantastic dancer because your hand motions are so beautiful.
Anyway, so this is my thing. So you need to be authentic, and if you take people who have been around for a long time, it is those two categories. The guys who have that inner mold which won't change, they stand for something and they are there throughout time. And also the guys who are just like liquid. The guys who are like liquid, they can go back, then come back, form again. Guys like that have also, had that they have had the longevity. And also the guys with that proper hardcore mold have also had the longevity. But the other kind, who doesn't have that authentic soul, who doesn't do this for the right reasons, you will see them being there for some time and they'll fade away. And that you even see it in Sri Lanka. You have seen it in the last, from the years that we came into the industry, from 1998, we have seen it.
Wow.
And the two very authentic kinds that I told you have been somehow surviving throughout, and they have been making an impact for every generation.
Wow.
They're still creating the minds.
Thank you, Botti. Santosh, do you want to go next?
Yeah, well, my opinion would be on, as in like, because I think, okay, the question we are looking at is trying to understand the art and the commercial side of the industry. Am I correct?
Correct. And how do you balance it?
Yeah, how do you balance it?
Good
right?
about it.
Yeah, say my notion, I would disagree to a certain extent. I wouldn't say that there are two or three kinds of different artists or anything like that, right? For me, art is art, right? There is art is about an expression, right? If someone, if there is no expression in that, right? If there is no ideology, if there is no thinking, if there is no if there is no creative idea, right? If there is no expression in that, original expression in that, it is not art, right? You're just doing something, what's, so having an expression is very important within art. But let's say now the person who's done that expression, or it could be the audience, if someone can understand different forms of art, that is their comprehension level and their appetite to consume different forms of art, right? And as Suresh said, I myself, I love opera. Same time, I love Guns N' Roses. To Suresh's music. Same, I could listen to Carnatic stuff too. All this stuff. It's so it all depends on, maybe there are certain genres I don't fancy too much, right? But just because I don't like that particular form of art, it doesn't mean that there is no art in that. If it is actually a piece of art, just that my level of comprehension, I've not been able to comprehend that. But all, see, about comprehension, it is not about trying to understand an artist. It's about a fan, or it's about the audience trying to understand art, right? With regard to an artist, what is more important is, it's not about him trying to comprehend and trying to adapt in different things. Most important for an artist is to be able to express as an artist, right? So now when you express and when your creation comes out, yes, the same way that you did not understand certain art, certain thing, there is an audience who will accept you, don't accept you, right? But some people will continue with your expression because they don't fall asleep without expressing what they have to do, right? Now what happens is, some of the people, the expression touches more people, it automatically, and if there is a business model in place, for example, I told you Mozart was a great creative guy, but somewhere down the line he became a bit more creative and realized, okay, I need to touch more people. After I created my expression, in order to get more people, more reach, he changed into a retail model. So that's what I meant at that time. So someone would think that this retail model is a very commercial thing. But at the same time, if Mozart didn't have the creativity to think this, to understand the logic of the entire thing, and in a creativity that, okay, we need to shift and bring this model in, the entire world wouldn't have gone, because he took the risk, he was very passionate, he felt, yes, I need to reach my people, so he changed that model. So that was a creative take he brought into the industry. So what I'm trying to say is, just because someone doesn't have critical mass, or just because someone's audience is small, it does not show any less value or more value of their creative expression. Creative expression is not measured with the amount of people they have. There are artists who have done certain paintings where they haven't had a single person who have really appreciated it. But once they're dead and gone, suddenly a huge market has emerged. People have really understood that expression, because at that time that particular expression was not timely. There are I think Van Gogh, I think, if I'm correct, right? I mean, there are so many artists like that. At that time, yes, there was no commercial value. People didn't, but so
But after
through
they
commercial,
die, they appreciate.
yeah, it's after their death, so you cannot measure a success of an artist through commercial gain, right? Or let's say the input of, let's say, the amount of fans they have or not. But at the same time, no one could say that, okay, just because after you, let's say, a particular artist, after they do that creative creation, right? If they are also quite creative about understanding the different channels and the different ways of how to get to more people, right? I think that is also a particular art form. I think people who have worked in the advertising industry, you have to be quite creative to come out with some creative within the advertising form. Right? So advertising industry is something very creative, very scientific. So science and art are not two. They are I would say they're not two different things. Right? It is just one. So we have to understand the creative side also. If someone is looking at the commercial side, looking at different channels, modes of taking the expression, right? That is creative. So in this entire process, sometimes you might choose some absolute creative thing, and you're not concerned about taking it to people. So your mode, you're absolutely happy with what you do. You just do it for yourself, and that's fine. So it doesn't make any less of you with regard to that expression, right? So art is about that expression. If there is no expression, there is no art. But even to get more people to like it, or even to communicate it, your mode of expression is also there is a component of creativity in your mode of expression and the way you communicate that also. Some person might bring some art into that also. Not only their creative expression, but in terms of communication, in terms of getting it to people, they bring some creative also. So that art, right? So just because someone has less commercial value or less fans or more fans, I mean, for example, I just end it with us example, like there have been certain projects we have done. It has not reached masses. It has not reached people. It has not made any revenue. There are certain songs we've done because bloody hell, we like that genre. We've done it. But there are certain songs we've done it because we really like those. We want to express in those lines, and we have done it, and it has gone to masses. So for us, both creations, we feel very passionate.
Yeah.
Right? But one person would think, oh, that's very profound. It sounds very profound. So even though it doesn't have, very mass hits, it's very profound. That is very creative. And then they'll look at a song like By the Remix and say, oh, that is not so profound. That is commercial. No. We've put, absolute creative effort to create both. I mean, both of us know the amount of input that we have put to create both. So creative expression cannot be measured by some commercial thing or the fans or anything like that. Lastly, same time, your mode of expression also can have creatives in it. So this is what the music industry is all about. So most importantly, get to know art.
Thank you very much, Santosh. So Randir, Dushyant, who would like to go next?
I'll wait till the end.
Okay, Dushyant.
Okay. So today we've been talking a lot about how to be a successful artist and what kind of qualities we need to have and all of those things. And mostly our base has been how to be a successful artist. But I think as much as, looking in the angle of being successful, I think it is very important, not necessarily being as an artist. I think it's very important that you do anything in life that also satisfies you. So in terms of success could be measured by commercial value or the whatever, all that. But yet again, I think whether you're an artist or anybody else, I think it's very important that you find doing something that you're passionate about and that you can continue doing it all your life. And finding this mix, the right mix of being successful and also being satisfied of what you do is very important. And my take is basically that.
Thank you. Randir?
Hi. It's nearing that time of the day when I, do.
Yeah, we're about to wrap up.
That's okay.
I got a request from Michelle saying, guys, please sing a song and finish. Like when we finish to sing a song. I'm
gonna park myself somewhere between BNS's opinions. So at the very start, when you asked your very first question, I said my answer to that was clarity and focus, right? When I say clarity, what I meant by clarity was, as an artist, what do you want out of your music career? What is having a music career to? First clarify that. okay, sitting in your bedroom and singing Ed Sheeran covers and uploading that to YouTube and watching, watching the view meter just go beyond 1 million. If you call that a career, that could be a career. Okay, if you just like to play in a band and basically just sing any kind of song, if you just like to sing songs, and you're happy playing the clubs, all right, playing the hotels, whatever, that's a career too. If you want something a little beyond that, if you want to create original content and you want a fan base and you want to perform at venues and you want to be a commercial artist, you want to make your livelihood, then that's a different approach. Okay, so in real world speak, with all the best intentions going into creating genuine art and keeping to your artist integrity, practically speaking, there's always a compromise. Okay, so I started doing rap music with a band called Brown Boogie Nation. We rapped in English. All right, here I am now singing in Sinhalese. Okay, my point being is that if all this is coming from a very genuine place where you actually like creation, you love creating stuff, okay, and you love to just sing and you're not tied down to one genre, that's, I think, what Bhatia described as being fluid. So if you can have that, that's quite good. If you're open to suggestion, then great. I think everybody on this panel here has managed to achieve that to some degree. All right, so I mean, so basically, so being able to adapt and being able to sort of find an insight in the mass market, find some insights and make use of that, match your talent to those insights. All right, I recently, you guys all know what bus songs are, right? A couple of years back, I got called to sing a bus song. Okay, it was 2 hours in a studio. It was excruciating. All right, and I kept asking the engineer who insisted that I sing it, the composer. I was like, "Why do you want me to sing this?" He was like, "I got accent. It sounds like some Indian guy singing it." I was like, "Yeah, okay, fine, cool, whatever." So we recorded the song. Okay, I was cringing for the entire recording. It was totally outside my comfort zone. Couple of years later, I'm checking TikTok. Okay, some DJ somewhere has managed to get his hands on the source files, and he has created a very catchy Kaigo sounding remix of this bus song that I did, and that thing has gone viral on TikTok. Okay, nice. So there is benefits to being fluid, as Bhatia explained. Like Bruce Lee said, be like water. Water has no form. Or some such thing. So yeah, long story short, enjoy what you're doing. Enjoy what you're doing. By all means, have fun. Okay, don't ever take the fun out of what you're doing. Enjoy performing, enjoy music, enjoy what you're creating. All right, and at the same time, just make sure you're matching it to some kind of market and some kind of paycheck at the end of it as well, because you do want to make a career out of this. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you so much. So Natasha's laptop battery actually died, because that's how long our conversation has been, guys. But as it was wonderful, thank you so much. I'm just going to ask you for closing remarks as we say good night. Shall we start off with Saunders?
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thank you very much. I think it's been a very interesting discussion with all different aspects regarding the music industry. The short and sweet, but I could tell people who are listening is do what you like, do what your heart says, and just enjoy the ride.
Thank you. Dushant, your closing remarks?
Oh yeah, so thank you very much everybody for sharing all your wisdom. Like Santosh and Bhatia also says, it's important that we, figure out. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
All of you guys are disappearing suddenly. Yeah, so I think what we learned today was, what kind of qualities that we need to have as artists. And also one very important aspect is to know about the value of the copyrights, because at the end of the day, if we are going to be successful, it is our ownership of the material that we have created that will actually give us a future. So as much as, new artists spending a lot of time in doing their creative, also be aware of, what's in store for you in terms of the ownership of your things, because that's what will, be your future. But at the same time, I would like to ask Botti and Saunders, Kaget Sundaris, also, because you guys are mostly hands-on with these kind of things, to be, because you guys are really responsible and being this, set these things straight, because it's not most of us who can get involved. As much as we can be thankful for the things which are happening, if we do see things that can be improved, let us all be there, help it out, because it's just not for us, because it's actually for the future of art and the artists in Sri Lanka. So thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dushyant. Welcome back, Natasha. We were just moved on to closing remarks before we all sing a song together. So all of you all will have to sing a song together. You can decide.
But how does it work? Because I know there's delays when you.
There are delays. It's not gonna work, Stephanie.
Yeah.
Okay, so everyone sing like 10 seconds of whatever you want.
It's gonna sound like the CD skipping for those. Those of you who don't know what a CD is, young children out there, that it used to be around disc.
Compact
we used
disc,
to listen
in fact.
to.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll go with like 10 seconds or 15 seconds or a little excerpt of whatever you like. Natasha, what are your closing remarks?
My closing remarks are that I think as a country, as Sri Lankans, we are a very resilient lot. We have been through wars. We've been through so much in the past, and this whole COVID thing is also a phase that will pass. We might have to adapt to a new normalcy, but at the same time, I think it's important to keep our spirits high and stand in the gap for each other, help each other wherever we can. That's what we all have been doing. I think I have seen you guys out on the front lines, and it's important to know that we are more than artists, more than creatives. We are human beings, and it's important that we just have each other's backs, and this whole undercutting and this divided way of looking at things need to kind of subside. And but artists out there, don't get discouraged because times are difficult. I think what makes artists truly artists are that they're passionate human beings that have drive, and your story is important. No matter how you look at it, your story is important. And if your story is consistent, and also it requires creativity, by all means get into the industry. Do not feel like it's something that it's not going to happen. We have all been through hard times, and we have all been through a lot of grit, and but we are standing. I mean, we love what we do, and that's the main focus. Basically, your love for the creative arts should prevail at all times. So that's what I have to say. And it's good to be on this panel with my fellow musicians and friends of the industry.
Thank you so much, Natasha. That was really beautiful, and I think you said it really well. More than anything, we're all human, and I think that's something that COVID-19, that's one of the positive things that actually came out, the humanity in people. And maybe Bhatia, you can give your closing remarks.
My closing remark, first of all, it was a great 3 hours.
3 hours? What?
It was right. It was
3 hours?
Yeah.
No way.
Please tell me you didn't feel it, guys.
So it was a great 3 hours, and if you take BNS and Randir, of course, we see each other quite a lot, but then all the others, it was great to see you guys after some time and have a conversation with you. I would want to say closing remarks. I think we said a lot. So all you guys out there, take care of yourselves, have a good one. And now I think things are slowly going to ease off, and we are going to get used to this brand new way of life in certain aspects, and we'll get back to the old one as well. Some of the old things we used to do. So take care and be happy.
Thank you. Hold on, two more, and then y'all can sing a little bit of whatever you want. That's Michelle's request from the bottom of her heart. So
I really pity the people watching this, because when we all start singing, it's like going to be in rounds.
Yeah, like they have those songs.
So maybe Steph can give a count and we can start, because he's
maybe we can.
It's not going to stop the delay, no?
Yeah.
What I recommend is each person takes turns, verse and chorus, and you're done. Let's put it this way.
Verse and chorus. What am I going to sing?
But before that, Suresh, your closing remarks, please.
That boomerang came towards me pretty fast. Thank you, Chokolaate Magazine, for having all of us from different industries. And I have to say, it is an honor and a privilege for me to be featured on this panel with so many of you from so many genres. So many of you are success stories. I know some of you personally. I deeply respect you guys personally as well. And I think it's a great thing that you guys have thought to incorporate and have rock and roll and heavy metal represent itself, for me representing those two genres here on behalf of our communities. They're two very different communities, by the way. It's not the same thing. It's like ice and fire. That different. Thank you, all of you who have logged in, tuned in, and God, I don't know how you guys survived 3 hours. I don't know how we survived 3 hours.
I know.
But, this is easily one of the most profound Zoom conferences that I've had. I don't just butter and I don't just say stuff off the top of my, just that rolls out of my tongue, unless I'm really inebriated. But I want to say I've learned quite a lot from you guys. Thank you. I think it's really been great. One last thing I want to say, for all of you out there who might not be familiar, in this whole COVID-19 time period right now, with this global pandemic, a pandemic does not care whether you're rich, whether you're poor, whether you're obese, whether you're thin. It doesn't care what your status is in society. It doesn't care who you are, what you look like. We are all impacted and affected the same. So with regards to our art, all of us, right? I would tell those of you, if you're unfamiliar with what we do, check it out. Give all of us a chance. Don't wait to hear it on radio or to see it on TV or to read it in the newspapers. We've all been here on this panel. Go check our stuff out. You might like it, you might not, but always give it a chance before you decide that you dislike something. At least give it that due. And Stephanie, great job, baby. So thank you. Thank you, all of you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Suresh.
To hell and back.
Guys, don't go without singing. Hold on. I know Santosh is trying to jump out. I know Suresh is also trying.
I'm going to go.
Randhir, your closing remarks.
Right. See you guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Oh my God. Wait.
Right.
See you. Bye.
Randhir's closing
Thanks,
remarks.
guys. Thank you very much.
Bye.
See you. Bye.
I'm losing it, guys. Randhir,
Bye.
Okay.
Yes. Love you and leave you. All the people
so
watching and who will watch this later on, love you guys, and we're going to leave you, and stay safe. Wear your masks. Wash your hands. That's what
masks
we've been
are kinky.
So.
Randhir, your final comments.
Okay, final comments. Okay, the battle for royalties is being fought. Hang in there. COVID has nearly destroyed the music industry, but there are still opportunities. Do not take criticism online too seriously. Be creative, but tailor your work to the market requirement as well. Great job, Stephanie. Good night and goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Michelle and Chokolaate.
See you.
All right, see you. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you,
Bye.
Chokolaate. Thank you. Bye.